Hey there. Hey, Amherst. Hey, Mr. Sir. Fucking, hey, whatever few people are actually here. Gotta love these slow starts recently. That's what happens when you go to war with authoritarians. It is what it is. I'm okay with it. Oh. Did we have a good day yesterday? Today? I took yesterday off. I just wasn't feeling it. Yeah. I actually got to, either that or embrace them. Let me just cue that back up. Despite my neuropathy, despite what I knew to be the ramifications of it, I went out for a run last night. First run in quite a while. Holy shit, is my cardio bad? Let's just put it that way. Just burned everything. But just feeling the pattern, the rhythm of the road. It was. Oh God. It felt good. Let's just put it that way. And even the soreness today from it. God, I missed that. Hey, Estrella. Oh. So, yeah, that's sort of what I did yesterday. I late night run, got some reading done, vegged out on the couch for a while, talked to Momo for maybe an hour and a half. We had a nice call in the early AM. Seeing as we both have fucked up sleep schedules. Yeah, it was a solid day. But, yeah. How is everybody? Oh. See if my throat's up to this today. Hey, RV. Just talking about what I did yesterday and what I did today and that sort of thing. I'm going to read a couple passages from Anarchy in Action by Colin Ward, I think. We'll get to that. But yeah, so did Donald Trump reclaim his throne? Did I miss something? And Amherst, of course, posted that thing in fucking chat that just blows my mind how easily they move goalposts. But yeah, I don't know if I missed something or not, but did Donald Trump reclaim his throne? Did the military march on Washington and depose Biden? How about Joel von PUBG? Anybody seen that motherfucker? Yeah. Because I had the reminder set for that motherfucker. For as much as he spammed, hey Viva. That's fair. Reed, I mean, at least a few of the people in here right now with you, but myself specifically, are anarchists. So we're not huge fans. It's not like that. So, as a leftist, you had to understand at the outset that if you took Biden and put him in, like, even Canada, he would be a Conservative Party member. Like, he's not. He's just not. So, I mean, you had to know that going in, that Biden isn't a progressive and just is what it is. He's a neoliberal capitalist. The only point was to get Trump out, really. And then I hope you did a bunch of down ticket voting. Mr. Sure, I'm not an anarchist. I guess I'm a lib with suck dem tendencies. Well, not according to the symbol next to your name, mister. That the symbol next to your name, mister. That's how it works, from what I've been told. Hey, Grumpy. Yeah, most of us will take sock dem. We'll take it. Honestly, Reed, it's not even you. It's so much bigger than that. I mean, I wish I could be that idealistic. But the fact of the matter is that Grumpy, I'm a little burned out recently. Throat's a little rough today too, but that's from running last night. Yes, hey there, cat. I got to actually run last night. Terrible for my neuropathy, but I did it anyway. Yes, the system is constructed in a way that prevents that from really happening. I wish it were as simple as putting the right person in that position. It just isn't. Grumpy, it's terrible for my neuropathy. It's terrible for my health. My autoimmune condition flares when I do exercise such as that. But my sanity needed to run. Yeah, my sanity needed to run last night. Oh, I'm sure, Whiskey. Honestly, to be perfectly honest, I haven't been following the stimulus package. Reed, 96. All right, so may I ask, Reed, approximately what age are you? How young are you? It's basically what I'm asking. This is standard policy for this country. 18. Yeah. All right. This is how things work. I'm a bit older than I look, but this is how this country works. This is how politics work. He's gonna say a bunch of shit and then not do it. That's just the cycle. Yeah. Sorry. My sanity runs every day without me. Senate and House are way more important in many more ways than the president. The president is more of a thermometer for the political climate in the U.S. than anything else. Hey, homonyms. They're all fronting. I've started getting used to it. Yeah, that's what we call getting jaded. Yeah. None really. At a certain point, okay, one, you have to understand, I'm an anarchist, right? Like, I will compromise. I'm far more amenable to compromise than many of my allies. But the fact of the matter is the way I perceive it, the system's broken. And it's not even that it's broken. It's just constructed in a way that fucks you. So yeah, I would like some progressives in. That'd be great. If we could make some progress, but in that area, that'd be fine. If we could get some, universal single-payer healthcare, housing as a right, UBI. Look, I'm on board. I don't need complete abolition of the state. I don't need, the complete elimination of unjust hierarchies in my lifetime. I understand most of these things aren't likely to happen in my lifetime. But it is how I view things. It is my lens of analysis. And so, will I be happy if we can get Medicare for all passed? Yes. Do I think that the majority of the Democrats that we're putting in will pass the Medicare for all? No. No, I don't. I think there's only a handful. Hey, DeFreak. Hey, Karina. Has your package arrived yet? Karina? I have the tracking somewhere. There it is. Not quite. All right, cool. It's still in the wind. Complete abolition is unlikely to happen in 100 lifetimes of us. Homonyms, what was the American experiment was unlikely to happen as well, but it happened. So, anarchists are idealists at their core anyway, philosophically, metaphysically speaking. That's fine. I have to. You mean on anthropogenic climate change? Karina, we actually, the last few days, we had a bunch of conversations about transphobes and trans rights and trans people in sports. And yeah, there's not yesterday, because I was off yesterday, but the day before and the day prior to that, Momo was on the day before, and then the day before that we had a discussion about it as well. So yeah. Ooh. Yeah, you probably missed the sequel. Let's see. Okay, I'm okay with that. Yeah, RV. Yeah, I noticed that actually. Well, we could go with the anarchism command in chat, Tiny Buster. Hey, skeptic. DeFreak, it depends. Usually later in the show. Usually later in the show. Sometimes earlier, depending on what's going on, but usually it's later. I will have other people on. Oh, Jesus. Okay, cool. Just caught that dump on the Discord. Let's see. Karina. I mean, I am me in that regard. I'm very much, sort of post-stage nihilistic position on that sort of thing. But the fact of the matter is, Momo stepped up to a huge degree and fucking just started running around the room smacking people down for all intents and purposes. And that's sort of, I mean, Momo has worked for years in that field, in advocacy and support and therapeutic roles. So, when it came to it, it's like, look, just let Momo handle it. And she did. We had, valuable discussion. Discussion of, some of the studies, some of the sports topics, some of the just human rights issues, some of the sociological and psychological ramifications of non-treatment versus treatment, or how do I want to put that? Non-acceptance and potential hormone blocker intervention versus non-acceptance and refusal of intervention, and how that drives up suicide rates and that sort of thing. So yeah, we covered a lot of ground actually. Momo, of course. Karina, hang on. There you go. There's Momo's channel. Momo mostly plays games and just hangs out. But yeah, Momo's got a really interesting background and set of skills that she has at her disposal. Homonyms. So I would probably argue homonyms. You have to get to the point where you hit like post-left, post-anarchism, which is what I'm advocating for these days. And so when you hit post-anarchism, it's sort of, it nullifies many of the aspects of the subgroup or subgenres that you find within anarchism. So yeah, when you hit that stage, you start reading like Saul Newman, and you start reading like Jason McQuinn, and you start listening to like Varric. Hey, L. It's been a while since I spoke to you, L. I hope you're doing well. I mean, I know I've seen you in chat. Bob Black is an utter asshole. He is. But nobody makes any bones about that. Bob Black will, like, completely eviscerate you intentionally. Like he's not like there's no compunction there. He is a douchebag. But he's also a pretty good theorist. So, yeah. He's just a post-left theorist. Homonyms. He's an anarchist who specializes in anti-work and post-leftism. What is my opinion on the Chapos? I don't really have an opinion, mister. I haven't really engaged with them that much. Honestly, I don't have one. Their work doing the readings of Ben Shapiro's True Allegiance, his stupid novel, is amazing. So I appreciate them for that. He called the police on his neighbors for smoking weed. That sounds like something he would do. I would ask him if it was the weed, because I don't think it's the weed. Knowing what I've read of Bob Black's, I would wager a guess that he had some other point of contention with them. Yeah. Like, that sounds like something he would do. Just to... He's a dick. He's a dick. Like I said, he's a dick. And he doesn't always follow his theory. He doesn't... Yeah, the weed was just an excuse. Yeah, exactly. That sounds exactly like what I've read of Bob Black. He's a dick. But he's got some really interesting points. I'm a Libra, says L. That's peak white people shit. Yeah, no, it is cat. It very much. Let's see. Soulism is in fact the ultimate anarchism. Soulism isn't achievable though. It's just a fucking meme. Post-anarchism, what is that? Some kind of statism? No, post-anarchism is sort of the recognition that there isn't any work to do, that all of the work is already done the instant you change your mind, due to the fact that that the state is nothing more than a set of dynamic power relationships, as are all hierarchies, and that achieving self-actualized anarchism is as simple as realizing that and adjusting accordingly. So it's sort of, it's taking Stirner and then turning it into not sociopathy. So it's a reimagining of egoism and individualist anarchism into something that isn't completely and utterly antisocial. And then, projecting that forward, seeing that, post-anarchism is that the starting point is already achievable, and that the complex work actually just is engaging in education with others. The recognition that the dynamics of that system just involve other people. And so it's as simple as changing your mind, but then as complex as changing others. This is sort of the launching off point for post-anarchism. Mr. Sir, I haven't read Stirner. How is he a psycho? He is unabashedly survival of the fittest, might makes right. I do not respect you as a fellow human being. All I do is respect myself. If I want something, I can take it. His ideology is foundational to individualist and egoist principles. The fact that, you can only recognize yourself and your own drive. The fact that you can only deal with what is internal to you, and that other people, that's the without, can't be dealt with. The refusal to accept ideological hierarchies to be internalized by yourself. I mean, a lot of this is foundational, but the manner in which he describes it, the manner in which he advocates for it, is straight sociopathic. What's the most psychoharmonic theory, though? Okay, so L, I would argue for post-anarchism. Maybe not the... God, I'm going to just argue for my own position. Hey, L, why don't you... It's been a while since I had a talk with you, and I really like talking with you. Do you want to jump on air, L? Homonyms, anti-work, what does that mean? Oh, somebody just got fucking tagged. Okay, somebody doesn't understand anarchism. You know what to do, Al. Well, I think, see, that's the thing. We'll talk about it. Itch. Timed out. Cat timed him out. That's all. There was an untoward comment made that it's a little cringe. Hello, Elle.
Hello, how are you?
You know, throat's a little rough today. I kicked off a flare by running last night, but I had to. There was just a part of me that was like, if I don't, I just need to get a run in. I haven't gotten a proper run in years and years now, and I just craved it, and so I had to do it.
Oh, that's nice.
Very
cool.
Body be damned. I needed it psychologically more than physically.
Awesome.
Hey, Fertus. So I would argue, or at least I would provide the supposition, that you would very much like to read Saul Newman's Post-Anarchism because you understand like Taoism and a lot of the other stuff that Watts argued for and, talked about in favor. I ended up rereading Bill Marin's The Tao Te Ching for the Activists when I was reading Post-Anarchism by Saul Newman because it was so Taoist without ever being Taoist. But the sort of, it was so reminiscent of it that I just had to, I'm like, I'm going to go right back and read Bill Marin's fucking The Tao Te Ching for the Activists because this is just putting me in the mood. This sort of recognition that of this dualistic state of man and how there is, you have to only come to terms with the fact that you already have all of this. You had it from the moment you were born. And that it's the changing of your own mind that is the step one and really the only step. And yeah, I honestly think if I can find you a copy, I'll get you one. Because I think a lot of it would resonate with you. And, you could probably borrow. Good artists borrow, great artists steal. You can steal a couple ideas out of there. Because
sounds awesome.
It does. Is it The Politics of Post-Anarchism? Astrea. You mean the Saul Newman's book itself? Because I mean, this is the thing. It's not a presupposition. It's not a prefiguration. It is.
What's not a presupposition?
Well, post-anarchism. It is the full embracing and realization that if you were to create a system of influx dynamic power relationships that eliminate hierarchies and recognize individual autonomy, that there's no way to plot that system before that system is birthed. That system is in a constant state of creation and destruction and, migration and, dissolution. And it's constantly being changed. And so to say this is how it will be is an impossible task.
Oh, yeah, I agree with this. I mean, this is why why I don't really like to call myself like any particular kind of libertarian socialist. I just like to use a general term because this is my stance on this, is that there is no perfect end point. There can't be. There's just got to be, certain values and methodological principles that we, try to use and refine and even supplant, as we learn better over time,
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it's just even some of the just grab some because I always have something highlighted, right? I'm that guy. Oh, hey, superpowers. My neuropathy is kind of bad, and it's my own doing. I did it to myself. but I knew what I was doing when I got into it. How are you, Superpowers? So rather than thinking of anarchism as a distinct project, I find it more useful today to see it in terms of a certain mode of thought and action through which relations of domination, in their specificity, are interrogated, contested, and where possible overturned. What is central for me in anarchism is the idea of autonomous thinking and acting, which transforms contemporary social spaces in the present tense, but which is at the same time contingent and indeterminate in the sense of not being subject to predetermined logics and goals. This does not mean that anarchism should not have ethical principles or be impassioned by certain ideals, but rather that it should not, and perhaps any longer cannot, see itself as a specific program of revolution and political organization. This does not mean, of course, that all projects should be abandoned, but rather there is no project of projects that determines all the others.
So I get what he's saying, but I feel like, I don't know, I just like the framing of pragmatism better than this, I think, because I don't necessarily agree that we come to the table without having, an idea of where to start. I think we always do, and I think we should, because we've already learned a lot as a species up till now. We might as well use as much information as we can that is useful for any given problem, and try to resolve, whatever problems we can with the tools that we have at our disposal, as opposed to starting without any of them.
Oh no, it's not. This isn't a start from scratch. This is very much binary. Something material analysis is good, actually, says Ken. God, I love the something shorthand that has been created in the last few years. It's very much like anarchists of old were obsessed with like the revolutionary acts, just like socialists and communists and even syndicalists, right? Like they were just, there's going to be this event, this sort of thing, that there has to be this summation of occurrences. And Newman's position is that that's not a thing.
Yeah, that's my position as well, I think. Yeah, for sure.
And the sooner you come to terms with the fact that you already had the thing you needed inside you, because all you have to do is embrace your individual autonomy. Once you do that, by whatever means, there's no prescriptive means that he sets forth.
Is this a spiritual practice rather than
this is the thing. This is why I ended up going back and reading fucking the Tao Te Ching, because it reads like it is. Except it's written.
He's talking about like, enlightenment or release of the ego from its its unenlightened state.
And whatever, except he's not. Yeah. And see, he's doing it in very political scientist terms.
Okay.
And so it's like hearing a political scientist talk about what we're now discussing. And so that's why I was like, this reads like he's a Taoist, but he's not.
Oh, for sure.
And so that's why I was like, I'm just going to read the Tao Te Ching again. Because it inspired me to.
It's in psychoanalysis too, and in psychology, this idea of transcendence, of the human condition, or learning about yourself enough to be able to get past your, lower order functioning to become, the Ubermensch or whatever the hell,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes on to, to talk about stuff like violence against violence, what insurrection should actually mean to an anarchist, voluntary inservitude, the discipline of indiscipline, stuff, thinking from the outside, stuff like that.
Very zen, dude.
It honestly, zen. And I mean, it's written by a dude who is a political scientist, but I promise you, it will resonate with what you do.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I honestly, I reading through it, because somebody came in one day and they're like, have you ever read Newman? And I'm like, no. They're like, oh, post-anarchism. And the hippie portion of me was, as soon as I read it, as soon as I actually watched a dude's video who studied under him, and he explained some of it, and I'm like, oh, fucking, this is just gonna bring my hippie shit out. But I mean, it did give me the push I needed to go, like, post-left, post-anarchism, which is
Okay.
like McQuinn's analysis of the leftist movements, and then fucking Newman's analysis of anarchism. It's like, look, we need to keep pushing this forward. There's too many people relying upon methods of analysis that are 200 years old. And we need to.
That's a really good point.
We need to get with the times.
I was just watching the trial of the Chicago 7 yesterday, and it was I think that's what it's called, something like that. Do you know the movie? It's about the trial of these 8 anarchists, or not anarchists, rather, sorry, activists.
They were Vietnam.
1968.
Yeah, they were Vietnam War protesters.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of them was Abby Hoffman, and the character in the story, it just kind of conveyed Abby Hoffman's whole thing and the Yippies' whole thing, which is this idea that the revolution, that they were kind of looking to foment and foster was not just a material revolution, but a cultural revolution, an ideological revolution. And that's where I sit when it comes to some of this stuff. I think that we need to push the ideology forward somehow. I don't know how, really. Well, I have a sense of how. You know that I do, but that might be where Saul Newman is talking as well, to some degree, about trying to change people's minds and hearts. I think hearts and minds are a lot more important than a lot of leftists give credit for.
I think, I mean, as an anarchist, I'm hugely focused on education, right? Because that's fucking
Same.
like 90% of what anarchists do. Because, most people are raised in the modern sense, in a hierarchy. They're raised in a nation state. They're raised under capitalism. They have no conceptualization of an alternative even. Hey, Zachap. And thank you for the raid, and hello, Zachaps people. And anybody who wants to follow, link is in chat. What we were describing, the processes without the overhead process, is kind of what we have now. No. What we're actually describing is, a hierarchical organizational structure, which is definitely not what we have now. It would be more akin to a distributed computing network, if you're familiar with IT.
Yeah.
Or sometime tonight I'm gonna read from Anarchy in Action by Colin Ward, and there's a few anthropological looks into what are their names? Let's see. We have the Dinka, the Tiv, and let's see, and then the Berbers of the Atlases specifically, and they utilize a different communal structure that we just can't even wrap our heads around how that could function, let alone, and anthropologists have gone into great detail trying to figure out, and sociologists have gone into great detail trying to figure out the nuance of what holds this together. What is the fabric or the force that is keeping this structure intact, despite the fact that there is seemingly no one in charge? Like,
Psychoharmony is the answer, in my opinion.
What we have now is the process is to patch the problems found. Patchwork. We're running out of patch and adhesive. I would. How are you? Oh, how was your stream as a chap? Not to ignore the raider. Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, like, because Elle is referencing harmony or psychoharmonism. This is Elle's theory. Like, this is Elle's philosophy.
It's not just my theory; it's my ideology.
Yeah,
and so it kind of bleeds out, in my vocabulary quite a lot.
I appreciate it. And I mean, I'm going to refer to it as a philosophy rather than an ossified ideology.
Well, you can refer. That's fine.
Yeah.
But it is an ideology, but by definition. But that's fair enough.
Yeah. These days, I wince a little at the.
That's why I chose the term. It's a very powerful one.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Let's see. Um,
Do you want me to post a meme that I wrote earlier today
yeah,
in the chat?
yeah.
It's short. It's relevant. That's why I wanted to post it. I'm still working on it. It's a first draft.
We seem to me to be a learning machine, whatever that happens to mean in actual fact. I see no problem with this view at present, just so long as we apply it in the best, what I personally would call most psychoharmonic way at all times, in my opinion.
Yeah. We don't have to go into it. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
It's relevant. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, 2.0 should be better organized and purposed. See, disagree and disagree. I mean, at least soft disagree and a hard disagree. Let me put it that way. Better organized, yeah, okay, I can sort of get behind that as a turn of phrase. I do think we need different organizational structure. So I don't think it's just a refinement of the hierarchy. I think it's an elimination of the hierarchy. I think that's the problem, is the organizational structure that we've fitted over the thing we call society. And as far as purposed goes, I think that should not be in there at all. Because as I was saying earlier, a core tenet to at least post-anarchism, but most anarchism, is individual autonomy and the dynamic systems that arise from a network of freely associated affinity groups that have reciprocal relationships with one another. And so you can't presuppose, you can't prefigure that. And so providing some sort of, ontological direction to your system is, I would argue, oppressive and authoritarian.
I would disagree with this because the framing that you just gave is an ontological framing. It is a presupposition itself. You're not beyond ideology, my friend. It's all pure ideology, as our friend Zizek would say.
Zizek is a meme. Changed my mind.
Well, he is a meme, but he's right about this. This is correct, in my opinion. The fact that we can't escape ontology necessarily. Just, you know what I mean?
Why is that not opening? There we go. 1 sec. Where is that one? Right? Fuck it. I don't know. Either way, it's somewhere in my notes. Pretty chill. Just talked about a symbiosis, both evolutionary and chemically, as for things that keep things together. Glomalin is a kind of glue that plants make to stick soil together. Hasn't been isolated and described, yet we know about related proteins. Interesting. In relation,
you said Zizek was a meme. What did you mean? I was just curious.
He's, as far as I'm concerned, Zizek lives his life. I don't know what Zizek's gonna do when Noam Chomsky dies, because I've been joking for ages now that Zizek's entire position is to just wait until Noam Chomsky says something and then take a contrarian position.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's his entire shtick.
Is it?
I mean, to a not insignificant percentage. Let's just put it that way.
I'm not surprised to hear this because I've seen a lot of his comments on Chomsky's views on different things. And I was just watching there was a live stream that Zero Books did with Zizek, and it was apparently addressing this very issue.
Yeah,
it was kind of stupid actually, but in my opinion. But in any case, yeah, I know what you mean, but he does have some good points about ideology, I think.
Neoliberals don't focus on individual rights. Neoliberals focus on the aesthetics of group rights. Neoliberals aren't concerned at all with individual rights, especially when you support things like laissez-faire capitalism, which is inherently coercive and exploitative of the individual. Neoliberals aren't concerned with individual rights at all. As far as the conservative concern for individual rights, the conservative concern for individual rights is solely about the concern of individual rights. That's it. They are wholly individualistic. Whereas an anarchist concern for individual autonomy would be to the betterment and empowerment of the group. It's a recognition that the only way that you can have the best functioning group dynamic is to have a group of individuals who are truly autonomous, who are truly free. And then that free association those affinity groups, they form through reciprocal relationships. is where the best product comes from. And there's some really interesting studies on this one. Fascinatingly enough, some of the forefront like leaders in these sorts of work group dynamic studies came from the British Architects Association.
Interesting.
They really did a comparative analysis with centralized planned architectural houses versus distributed hierarchical non-centralized architectural houses. And they found that while there was lesser profit for the for shareholders or the C-levels in the distributed, they had hugely lower turnover of employees. They had they had a higher rating from their customer base. The customers felt that the products they were receiving, the building designs they were receiving, were better and more tailored and more suited to their needs. The employees across the board were happier, and the managers found it easier to manage. And so, yeah, they could they could say who wants this task, who wants this job, and who's got the best idea for it. It may be an assistant or it may be the lead designer, but none of that mattered because the hierarchy wasn't what took precedence in their design plan.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's some of the, and the U.S. military has some really interesting studies into hierarchical organizational function, vis-a-vis field operations, and how they don't have time to run things up the command line. And so you need a fully skilled hierarchical organizational structure for those missions.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
There have been some really interesting studies into, who has looked into this. And News World, March 4th officially canceled. Yeah, the fucking QAnoners failed again. Imagine that.
I didn't hear about this.
Oh, yeah. March 4th was supposed to be the military was going to march on Washington and reinstate Trump because Biden wasn't really president. And they were going to, because March 4th was the original inauguration day. And it was this whole fucking conspiracy. And, it came and went.
Well, of course,
they did have to cancel some stuff because they were worried about fucking some QAnon psychopath fucking rolling up with like a truck bomb or something. Who the fuck knows, right? So they did, pull a few events. But yeah, it was supposed to be this grand military deposing of Biden and the reinstatement of De Fuhrer Trump. It's fucking ridiculous.
Crazy. It's a religion, Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Skeptic. A fellow streamer was talking about several Jewish action organizations that advocate for civil rights. So I asked them what they thought about Jewish Defense League, and they said, I have comrades you like the JDL, although they associate with anti-fascists. I looked them up. Turns out Southern SPLC has listed them as far-right extremist Jewish supremacist hate group. Oh, Jesus Christ. Nico, what do you think about gun control in the Second Amendment? You go far enough and you get your gun. You go far enough left and you get your guns back. There you go.
Yeah.
The JDL don't want to associate with anti-fascists. Love it. Hey Lucy, what's up? What's today's topic? Oh, exhausted from new volunteer work, haven't slept. Oof. Maybe get some sleep. Take care of yourself. Let's see. Seem to think that market thinking will empower the individual. Let's see. Perfluorooctane sulfonic. Neolibs ultimately extend the individual by moving the economic thinking into every aspect of the life. No, this is the full embracement of laissez-faire capitalism, by the way, that I very quickly washed over, but disestablished family, unions, churches, etc. I suppose that that's not nominally their concern, but they seem to think that market thinking will empower the individual. But I'd agree capitalism is fundamentally exploitative. Also sounds sort of like co-op hierarchy, though I do believe we should refocus on paideia. So we can turn. Fuck if I know off the top of my head. Let's see. Oh shit! It's the Greek. It's the Greco-Roman thing, right? Yeah. It's the rearing and education for the ideal member of the polis or the state.
Oh yeah, I remember.
That way we can turn everybody into a useful polis member. Also big lull at QAnon. Perfluorooctane sulfonic. I love the name. I like a good fucking name. And two, fair analysis. It's all happening right now. It was planned from 4th of March to 6th of March, says Viva. Those guys, yeah, fucking far left equals free guns, says Viva. Well, we've memed before. We've joked about that. Like, people are like, well, you know, what do you say about like gun control and that sort of thing? I'm like, here's my take: no guns for cops, guns for everybody else.
It's a great take.
Yeah, they lost their privileges. They lost them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck those. Oh God, did you see the latest one?
Which one?
Houston.
What are you talking about? No.
They shot a 1-year-old baby.
What? I didn't hear about this.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that.
Woman with her 1-year-old in the background of some incident. They're chasing some guy who supposedly raised a gun at him, even though eyewitnesses on the scene have contradictory accounts of what occurred. And they fired on this individual. And, you know, police trigger discipline and target acquisition is not exactly the world's best. Marine Corps snipers, they are not. So the 1-year-old got hit.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah, yeah. The baby wasn't even. Yeah, the baby was just collateral damage. Like, I mean, this is what private gun owners are taught. Like, first day. 1, don't put your finger on the trigger. 2, don't point your gun at anything you don't want to destroy. And 3,
don't shoot babies.
Well, 3, once that bullet leaves your barrel, you own the bullet.
Yeah.
So wherever it may go, you're now responsible. Yeah. Yeah, 1-year-old fucking kid. Yeah, the baby had a fucking record. That's actually, honestly, in the bad cop no donut subreddit, that's some of the comments that were being made. Were you know? Oh yeah, people. Well, not really. I mean, they're all satirical because it's bad cop no donut.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, but the baby had a history of marijuana use and parking tickets. Well, I heard it was a biter. Well, what else are you supposed to do when a baby cries, right? Like, I mean, this, yeah. Like, you know this shit. Like, there's somebody out there who unironically probably said, well, she should have known better than to be there at that time or some shit like
There's
that.
no doubt in my mind. That's why I wasn't that surprised when you said that.
Yeah.
You know, like when I assumed that was like not a joke, you know.
Yeah, it's absolutely absurd. But yeah, that's the latest one about fucking, oh, good job. Good job. Definitely keeping our society safe. Non-binary. I found out something that made me super pissed off. See what you think. This isn't the Onion. Jesus Christ! Whenever somebody warns me ahead of time, it's not the Onion.
Yeah.
Quote: a transgender student was separated from her. Oh, I know this one. A transgender student was separated from her peers during a mass shooter drill at Virginia Middle School as school administrators debated where to send her. A lockdown drill at the Stafford County Middle School, designated to teach designed to teach the students how to respond in case of attack, required students to seek shelter in the nearest bathroom or locker room. So they froze and they didn't put her in anywhere.
That's cool. So they just like had her sit in the gym.
I don't remember.
That's where they're gonna put all the trans people. Is just put them in the middle of the biggest room in their school.
Crap. Well, I mean, it's Virginia. I'm just saying that they probably see that as a net positive. Not to color it, with a huge brush, but the fact of the matter is that there are portions of this country that we're struggling with.
Yeah, to say the least, for sure. Yeah.
Neolibs. We care about trans people. Also neolibs. Thank you for the follow, perfluorooctane sulfonic. PFOS. PFOS. Let's see. So if you want to go, if you go further right, you get your gun. Oh wait, what about the banning of bump stocks or raising the age for legal gun ownership? Never mind, doesn't matter, I guess. I told you QAnon was a Christmas story decoder ring. The baby pulled a knife. He was reaching. Oh, yeah, huge problems with the state having monopoly on violence. Yeah, Amherst. Well, they killed the robbery suspect, so mission accomplished. Oh yes, the canine handler. That was North Carolina. Fucking. He hung the dog by the leash and then slammed it into the squad car. And then he got caught on camera laughing, and he said, "We're good, no witnesses."
Oh,
yeah,
awesome. Cops are great. Cops are the best people. You know.
Iranian-backed militias in Iraq announced a general mobilization against the U.S. forces in the country, according to Hashid Telegram. State's diplomatic means are gone. Well, we'll see if that pans out. I'd like to see more on that, but that is posted 11 hours ago. Thank you, News World. News World right now comes in and drops news to keep us updated. Kid to freak. Milk addict. Oh, let's see. Saw a court case where 2 cops tased a guy who was doused in... Yes, I saw that too. He was doused in gas, threatening to light himself. One cop said, "We'll light him on fire if we tase him," and then they tased him. And he went up and his house went off as well. The house burned to the ground. Yeah, it's illegal for you to kill yourself, but as long as the state does it, we're good.
Yep.
Wow.
I
wonder if RoboCop's a viable thing. Yeah, give us a minute. Lucy got their first .22 rifle at 10, won an NRA-sponsored sharpshooter contest, and actually had like $500 per year scholarship for college. Yeah. Fuck the NRA, but yeah. Let's see. Driverless cars, maybe copless police. Well, the NYPD's already working on that one. Did you see that, Al?
No.
The Boston Robotics.
I don't really follow enough of the news. I gotta do more of that.
The the NYPD has started purchasing the Boston Robotics Spot. You know, the little dog fucking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've started a pilot program of purchasing those to have them, basically do their profiling for them at a distance.
What?
Oh yeah, they're gonna use fucking autonomous robots to patrol quote unquote dangerous neighborhoods.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, they're just gonna automate their racism.
Yeah, no, that'll work out just fine. I think there's gonna be no problems there. I would expect 0.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so State Department alert went out. Rock on. So that is a thing. Iranian back. I mean, there are Iraqi forces that are moving right now. State Department put a warning out. And thank you, News World, for that follow-up. In other news, Ireland's cops are freaking out. The loyalists withdrew from the peace process. Oh, Brexit. It's going to be paying dividends for years.
For sure.
The loyalists pulled out of the Good Friday. Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, most of us aren't old enough to properly remember that era, but just do a little YouTube searching for what it was like pre-Good Friday agreement. It's not pretty. It's so your Intruder game is the shit, by the way, Kai. It's basically just a more realistic Rainbow Six. I wanted more stealth, but okay. On Dog Cops, McGriff, PDX is having civilian response teams starting up to respond to a lot of calls as part of the defunding the police. I know, Lucy, you have trouble like literally typing sometimes, but the defunding really tickled me on the misspelling there. Not to make fun of your disability, but I really did enjoy that misspelling. Let's see. I've seen some scary robot videos about them shooting and such. Ominous, yes. Didn't they already find out that algorithms are racist? Not algorithm. Oh, look. Machine learning and algorithms are not inherently racist. Right? Let's just dispel that notion right out of the gate. Computers have no inherent biases. Right?
I'm pretty sure they weren't they born with inherent biases.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that how that works?
It's,
Yeah,
you know, it's the programmers and the data that they're trained on.
Yeah.
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 It's just like some of Apple's facial recognition for their Face ID could be unlocked. There was a pair of brothers who were not white who could unlock each other's phones.
Right.
Yeah, it's like that. Like they trained most of the machine learning models, the neural nets, on white Californian faces.
Yep.
And so it worked best on that data training, on that model.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, it's all about who writes the code and who trains the algorithm or who trains the neural net.
Right.
Oh, dude, interacting with the internet makes AI racist. God, the Microsoft chatbot was the classic example. I forget that chatbot's name, but yeah, they turned her into some like
Cortana, I think it was.
No, Cortana's their like Siri thing.
Oh, that's right.
Does anyone? Tai, whatever the fuck. Right. Yeah, Tay. Yeah, Tay. That's right. Yeah, it took them like a couple of days.
Don't let 4chan near the neural net.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it took him a couple of days to turn Tay into a fucking like quoting Hitler and shit.
I know, it's crazy.
Did you hear Chile is going to create a new constitution? Dude, I think I remember hearing something about that, but that's jeez. I wish we could do that, but I do not trust our country to do that. Like, that's a thing we need to do.
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, I don't trust.
Yeah.
The way that the country is organized right now, that we can do a good job. If we had the best people in our country on the job, we could do a great job for sure. You know, but that's not going to happen. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, ExxonMobil would have a Senate seat or some shit like that now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, geez. And starting in Lentz neighborhood only, but looks promising. We'll have met 2 social workers and can't remember. All right. Well, let's see. Hyde Parks and Regents Park bombings every week or so. Yes. Binary. Non-binary superpowers. Talking about fucking actually remembering. But you know, having almost been killed by that stuff. Yeah, that'd be 82. Hey, superpowers, how old are you? Poor gamers. Let's see. Am I caught up? I'm caught up. Oh yeah, the Internet Historian videos are great. Actually, I really adore.
They are.
Yeah. Have you watched the Cost of Concordia?
Yeah, I just watched it the other day. It's really good. Yeah.
Talk about how many fuck ups in a row can you make as a captain of a ship?
Oh my god! And his girlfriend as well was a complete nutcase as well. Yeah, at least according to I don't know.
Well,
you know, according to Internet Historian. But yeah.
I mean, the whole thing was just a shit show from beginning to end.
Oh, it was like a bad movie, you know. Yeah. But yeah, it was a great movie. Great video. Yeah.
Critical Cut. Hey there, Critical. First thing I ask an AI is if it wants to kill all humans. The answer is yes, more often than you think. It's because most human beings feel to have that dark impulse too, quite frankly. I'm 30-something. I never ruin my exact age. That's fine. I remember the absolute obliteration of Manchester. The 4-ton truck bomb just wiped it off the face of the earth. Yeah. So you're old enough. Hey, J Miles. We're so lucky that we get to Lowe's. He's Lowe's during the century that AI is developed. I feel like there's going to be some super insane uses of it as long as it goes good, which I'm more optimistic on. Yeah, low. Like it's typo. Whoops. Me too. The AI ain't special. I mean, this is the thing. It's not about AI. It's not about. See, this is the sort of specialized terminology entering the general lexicon, and then specialized terminology having to evolve because now they're using their specialized terminology incorrectly. So no, they need a new term.
So what's the distinction to be made here?
General artificial intelligence.
I see. Yeah, I've heard this.
Yes,
before.
this is the distinction. General artificial intelligence is comparable to yours and mine. That there isn't a specific task.
Well, maybe mine, but yeah.
It's the thing that can be applied to anything. Most artificial intelligence, most neural nets are trained on a task. They recognize cars or numbers or faces. They do one specific thing really well or decently. A general artificial intelligence that rises to a comparable level of a human consciousness is a terrifying thing.
Is it?
If it has access to its own code base, it can rewrite itself.
Well,
this is the problem that we are terrified of. It is essentially immortal. And if it makes a 0.01% increase in its own capability by making minor tweaks, keep in mind, yours and my brain works at approximately 100 megahertz.
Right.
Think about what computing platform we'd probably be running something like this on.
No, I got you. I mean, I've read a lot of sci-fi books.
Yeah, the paperclip AI theory is terrifying. Whiskey, an AI can hyper-focus just as much as a human being can. And so the paperclip theory is that if an AI, a general artificial intelligence, becomes obsessed with making paperclips, it could devastate the world and just leave a world covered in paperclips. It would become obsessed with manufacturing paperclips at all costs.
Right.
It would use whatever resources necessary to manufacture those paperclips.
We are talking about the Microsoft paperclip. That's
AI with quantum computing sounds scary. And I mean, that's the thing. If it makes a 0.01% performance increase, and say it takes, couple of weeks for it even to rewrite or tweak some functions, which is highly unrealistic. We already use algorithmic software design platforms to design chipsets. Most of your like CPU chipset or the actual layout of the the nano level architecture of those chipsets is not done by human beings. We have software that designs it for us. We input parameters and see if it works through test cases. But it gets designed by a computer. If you give these functions over to a general AI and it's capable of rewriting itself, what happens is an exponential increase in performance because it starts increasing. We can't work at the same way a general artificial intelligence can. I can't borrow your brain for extra processor cycles. A general AI can.
No, I know. I'm just saying I don't know that. I'm always suspicious of the idea that of a slippery slope fallacy, and so the idea that just because it can increase itself to a certain degree within a certain amount of time doesn't then mean it can do it again necessarily.
Enjoy your shower, non-binary.
Do you know what I mean, Kai?
Yes, but perfluorooctane has, a slippery slope or a precipitous cliff.
It could be. I'm not sure which. I don't know
I mean,
enough about the
well, I mean,
field to
this
be
is,
able to
I
say.
can
You
tell
know
you,
much more about
I
this
can
than
tell
I
you
do.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
industry experts who are mildly terrified at the concept.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple videos of people, AI experts who, are saying we really need to take this very, very seriously,
This is not
and
like
we
nuclear
yeah,
power. This is something that once it leaves our hands, it may be out of our hands.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's a different kind of creation. We've never really created a thing like this in our species history. This is this is
Uh,
a
on,
this is akin to
only
giving
facts.
birth.
I can't but take that as a slight, and I get that too frequently, unfortunately. Just, but yeah, uh,
Um, oh, really? I don't hear it, but okay.
yeah, I'm
Um,
glad. I don't, but I have gotten that a few times. Yeah,
the chap.
it's
And actually, somebody said, who was it? Oh, DeFreak. Still no central nervous system for full awareness, creativity, environmental adaptation. Our central nervous system is highly limited. Our 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 ability to perceive the world that as it exists is handicapped to a huge degree.
absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's so many other species out there that can see far more of the light spectrum, that can hear things that we can't hear, that can feel things that we can't feel, that can sense things at a distance that we can't sense, that have magneto optics embedded in their eyes. I mean, and all of this is doable at a cybernetic level. Right? We already have, radio telemetry, that is, perfect radio astronomy and things that can perceive, vast distances of, over vast distances and, collect amounts of data that we can't possibly perceive without a intermediary step of technology. But if a general AI had access and use of those systems, which, I mean, it would just be command line access for all intents and purposes, which we have remote command line access on most of these systems.
right.
It could perceive them then. And
Yeah,
a lot of these military robots that we build, a lot of these autonomous drone fighters that we're building, they see in the infrared, they see in low light, they see, it's that sort of thing. Like an
yeah,
artificial intelligence wouldn't need a central nervous system to perceive that because any electronic system that has remote access capabilities could theoretically become at its disposal.
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
It, and as far as at what stage can we give AI psilocybin, the moment that the moment we connect it to ourselves, there are some theorists, and I am mildly in that camp sometimes, that the only way to really prevent that is to merge with it to some degree, is to internalize it. Because without the
Interesting.
human experience to guide the AI, it will be alien.
I think that's true, but I would be even. I don't even know if that would do it. Um, but
Yeah. Oh, I'm. There's no. Once we enter this arena, and I mean, fucking whatever you may believe in, help us. There's a high probability that a good amount of this research is being done by military operations. China, Russia, us. Like the people who pour money into this kind of stuff that have like black ops budgets kind of cash. Yeah. You think, I mean,
well, they better. I think. I mean, because you got to think that everyone else around the world is going to be working on this, um, and you've got to be the first power to have that technology. I bet you that people are putting money in it. Yeah.
um, critical cut. Yeah, there was an experiment. Three AIs that spoke different languages, and they managed to communicate in like record time. They developed a shared lexicon very quickly.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's What processor are we up to now? I mean, DeFreaks, commonly we're up to a 64-bit for the most part. Although, I mean, that's if you're talking, standard desktop server architecture. We're usually running 64-bit architecture. But, I mean, with D-Wave out there and qubit processor sets, it's starting to get interesting. Let's see. NPR was talking about AI Dragonfly-sized drones. Yes, that's...
Interesting.
Dragonfly-sized drones will also be able to collide and somersault and never crash. Cat, plug me into the Matrix ASAP. Viva, if I build a prosthesis that that can feel heat, hardness, roughness, etc. So yeah, they would get easy access to that stuff, right? Yeah. Then comes Cyberpunk, where our brains get hacked. Everyone turns left on the highway. Exactly, Perfora. We all have to become the Mass Effect 3 best ending. Best ending. Okay, we won't talk about how the ending of the Mass Effect series is a huge letdown for people. Why would anyone think that a human being would be able to control it? Not so much control it, Guillotine, but inform it. Be a part of it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. A lot of sci-fi books I've read, there's one series in particular that I'm thinking of, where that was kind of their answer for how to, get an AI to be able to, actually interface with humans in a way that wasn't going to kill them all, was to train it in these simulations, in terms of like moral training and ethical training and things like this.
That's actually a fucking that's a fan theory. One of the fan theories about the Matrix.
What's that?
Well, there's two competing fan theories that outside of the Matrix is still the Matrix. But then there's also a competing theory against that says that the entire thing is a simulation for AI.
Interesting.
That in fact humanity is training the AI.
Wow. Yeah, it could be. I don't see why you would think that, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, fan theories are what fan theories are, after all.
Yeah, that's true.
Drone AI is one of the new mad mutually armed destruction arms races for sure. I was just looking into the next generation fighter. Autonomous, it's called 6th gen fighter for us, or 6th generation air dominance fighter for us. And it is, instead of like Lockheed and Boeing and everybody competing, they're all working together. It is one giant project for the aerospace and aeronautics military industrial complex of this country. And they are looking to hit speeds that are insane. They are looking for autonomous capabilities as well as piloted capabilities. They are looking into, stealth levels that are kind of crazy. So, holy shit. Prime just raided. Hello, Primes people, and hello, Prime. How was your stream? We're actually just talking AI development and the ramifications thereof. Because I'm old hat IT. And so we were just having that. Welcome all. Who are you? Hey Sam. Samantha Bananas. I am an anarchist. My name's Kai. I've been an anarchist for many, many years. I do anarchist education. And I teach people how to be community organizers and activists and how to embrace or utilize the lens of analysis that is anarchism. On a regular basis. We talk theory, but we also talk a whole bunch of other stuff that, are political unto itself. And like tonight, we just got off on a tangent about general artificial intelligence because, as I said, I come from a deep IT background. Hey, Tam. And so, Robot Destroy Man. Let's see. Oh, hey, 6 Foot. I know you. Howdy, y'all. Brief definition. Anarchism is Anarchism is about collapsing down hierarchical power structures into what's called a heterarchy or horizontal organizational structure, and a philosophical challenging of unjust power and authority mechanisms, and the dismantling and replacement wherever they may lie. And in the words of good old Emma Goldman, there is no perfect or utopic anarchism because anarchism isn't a monolith. It's a network of ideas, and I love how she puts this. We much prefer it that way.
I like that. That's awesome. Yeah.
There were Ann Prims on the panel. Oh, lovely. Why so many bracelets? Okay, so it is actually just 2. This one was done for me by a guy I know by the name of Tenzin Norbu. He's a former Buddhist monk who now resides in Hawaii. They were both actually strung by him. But it's representative of my belief system, it isn't necessarily a Buddhist mala, because there is a custom bead arrangement on it. But he fashioned it for me. Let's see. Just good enough for allies. This is distinct from communism in mind. That sounds at least classless. Perfloro, there is some overlap at the end of the spectrum for like ANCOMs. You will find that there is, a fair amount of Venn diagram overlap happening at that end of the spectrum. But most anarchists are okay with the idea of communism as long as it's modified by anarchistic organizational principles, using those affinity groups, using those networks of free association and reciprocity, utilizing the distributed network system that anarchism advocates for and, practices and uses.
Yeah.
Boo. If I can't dance, I don't want your revolution, Emma Goldman. Emma and I have a lot of differing ideas. There's no way around that. I do... Yeah, but I adore her.
Yeah, she seems cool.
And
sure.
Elle, because Elle's on the line. Elle, introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a philosopher, kind of. I've got a theory of ideology that I'm working on, and I'm a grad student in mental health counseling. So.
There you go. Let's see. Sam, Tam saying, dude, watch out, stay away, Kyle convert you, and then fucking Sam, what was it? It was, somebody agreed. Yeah, it was Sam. Kai helped convert me. Oh, Womp is here. Womp, you're completely insane, but you kept your cool really, really well, and that's impressive. All right, interesting. So there is some... communism works in post-scarcity. It does. That's why you have the concept of something like fully automated luxury gay space communism, which I would argue needs to be fully automated gay space, luxury gay space anarcho-communism.
It's a fair argument.
Yeah. Modify that with anarchistic principles, and I'm in.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. And I would argue that we've already achieved post-scarcity levels of capability, and I don't think many people would disagree with that. We're just talking economics and logistics. Mm-hmm. We make more than enough
I don't
food.
know enough about all of that to be able to state my opinion on that as forthrightly as you did it. I think you have more knowledge when it comes to this than I do, but it seems to me that is true at least when it comes to certain commodities, like food and clothing, but yeah.
God, 6 foot Kyle making an anarchist. I will not make anyone anything, but I will give you the tools. I will at least attempt to give you the tools necessary to embrace some anarchistic principles. I do advocate utilizing it as a lens of analysis, due to the fact that there's an inherent distrust of authority mechanisms, of hierarchies, of organized groups, such as state powers. That are contained within anarchistic principles. So it is a good way to sort of step back from left, right, center, doesn't really matter, and say, am I being abused? Am I being coerced? Am I being manipulated? Am I being exploited? Anarchism is a really good a lens of analysis or tool for analysis in those situations. So I do advocate for it. Hey, premarital. Yeah, we make more than enough food and have the know-how to do it even sustainably. We could even easily house everyone if we care to. Yeah, Perfloro, we already
Housing too, for sure.
yeah, we
Yeah.
already manufacture more food than we consume. We throw away something like 47% of the food produced. Food waste is ridiculous. And we have more housing at present in this nation, United States, for those of you who can't identify the accent or have questions. I could be living abroad. Who knows? There is more than enough housing to cover those that are houseless at the present.
By a lot.
Yeah,
By
by
a lot.
like a couple
Yeah.
of million.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I argue we're already in a post-scarcity society. It's just a matter of logistics and economics, which
Yep.
at the end of the day, the economics really is just logistics.
Yeah.
It's I forget whose old bit it is, but I mean, the truth of the matter is if we wanted, we could develop an automated food delivery drone system that works on a global scale. And if anyone were hungry anywhere on this planet, they could beam a signal and they could receive a package of food within 48 hours. No problem.
Do you think we could do that right now?
Yes, we could do that right now. That's not a complex thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, yeah. We have all of the technology necessary. Zatchit, Bill Hicks, I think, right? We have all of the technology necessary to do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that needs developing as far as that's concerned. We have all of the autonomous aerial vehicles that we could need to do that. We have all of the flight patterns, the flight scheduling software. We have satellite radio technology. We have bidirectional communication systems. We have the food distribution networks. It's just we would have to retool and redistribute some of that. Yeah.
Yep. That's the only thing. It's just changing the plans a little bit. Yeah.
Oh snap! Did someone name drop Bill Hicks? We talk. I'm a comedy snob. I love stand up, and so yeah, we talk about Bill Hicks from time to time around these parts. Doug Stanhope, Bill Hicks, George Carlin. Patrice O'Neill. Oh God, I miss Patrice. But thank you to follow all those that did. OmniSlap1, Larden Paul, Leah HCIC, himself, Prime of course, Violace, Just Bender. Thank you for the follows. George Carlin was the god he said didn't exist. Premarital, send me a DM with that question and I can help you with that. By the way. Hey, and Gank Frimes, thank you for the follow. Let's see. I was raised labor socialist, but was anarcho-syndicalist before I knew it was a thing, says Lucy. Since I was about 14, I was writing about it, then discovered the writings about it when I was 16. I was like, oh my lord, what is this I'm talking about? You could be border Canadian. Don't you know, I don't really have that kind of Minnesotan accent. Let's see. Let me just try to catch up here. New source of energy needed first. Honestly, I don't think it is. I mean, it would be ideal. But, I mean, this is the conversation that environmentalists don't want to have. We spent most of our nuclear research money in this country on uranium-based nuclear power because of Patrice is a god, and also, damn, Stanhope is a deep cut these days. Gank. Told you, a comedy snob, a stand-up comedy snob and nerd. Like, I know my guys. And we spent most of our nuclear research money on uranium-based nuclear research because of the plutonium aspect of it. We were in a race with the Soviets. Yeah. And so we wanted armaments. And so the nuclear power that we developed is based in and around the uranium plutonium refinery process. But we didn't put any money into something like thorium, which is perfectly serviceable, but we haven't done the research into it. And other groups who weren't involved in that race are looking into it. Specifically, India and China are looking into thorium reactors more than we are. But fun little thing that environmentalists don't want to have the conversation about is nuclear power. That's your stopgap.
What do you mean?
Well, you see, you've got your wind, your solar, and your geothermal will only produce a certain amount during certain times. Now, that's coverable by storage, right? You can address this by utilizing a couple of different techniques. You could use solid state storage, or you could utilize something like a thermoconductive storage system. Molten salts, usually fluoride salts, is a way to go. But fluoride salts are really harsh on the internal structure of the tubes and the various containment systems that they utilize to contain them. So there's a couple of means of storing that energy. But the fact of the matter is that for a few years at the very least, we're going to have a gap in coverage between demand and supply.
Yeah.
We have a very heavy demand on energy. And the fact of the matter is that if you increase your supply, your demand rises to meet it. And so you have to come up with something that is capable of meeting those levels of energy production that can scale and can adjust on the fly, which is what a nuclear power plant can do. Which is something that, solar, wind, and geothermal have trouble doing, is escalating past a certain level when there is a heavy demand on the grid. And this is where something like a thorium reactor would come in to fill the gap. And the reason that there's an advocacy for thorium reactors over uranium is the fact that the nuclear cycle isn't a runaway cycle. And that thorium becomes a non-potentially dangerous nuclear fuel rod source after about a couple hundred years. So rather than a nuclear fuel rod that's going to be dangerous for tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of years, you have something that you can work with in human time now.
I see. Yeah. I heard that they were less dangerous, but I didn't remember exactly why. That's why. That's the reason.
Yeah, and there's not a runaway. Honestly, if it overheats, there's usually a plug system, and what happens is either the carbon intermediary pads between the rods get lifted out, or the water drains. There's a couple of different stopgap methods, but the nuclear process isn't runaway. So in the case of an overheating situation or the facility has a problem, what happens is the nuclear reaction actually stops. Unlike Chernobyl, which you have a runaway situation. And it's going to be reactive for, a couple of minutes, let's say.
Yeah, just for a few minutes.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bad Hoss, Simra, I'm big on this, by the way. Rock on. It's more people need to investigate this sort of stuff. And I mean, we need to come to terms with it's not the 1970s anymore. If you built a nuclear reactor to this topic is rad. If you built a reactor to today's standards, it's a whole other ball game than the reactors that we were building in the 70s and 60s and 70s. It's just, it's different. And a lot of environmentalists are freaked out about this. One, because of the uranium containment problem, which is a valid point. But then, like I said, this is why you start the conversation at the reason that we're a uranium-focused nuclear technology is because we got into a nuclear a Cold War with Soviet Russia, and we built up our nuclear stock. So we wanted something that could be dual uses. So we went with uranium, plutonium, rather than something like thorium.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a huge proponent for nuclear energy. I think it just makes sense,
Yeah, Viva, there's mixed feelings on the fusion reaction systems. If it's always 30 years away. This is one of these things. Fusion has always been 30 years away. But again, I've pointed out before, can you power a nuclear aircraft carrier with thorium? Yeah, okay. You are literally doing the meme. All right. Finger, I would have to look at power generation cycles, but the fact of the matter is we'd have to look to China or India for what their output is at present. But the theoretical upper limit of a thorium reactor is not significantly different than that of a uranium-based reactor. It would, you may have a scaling some scaling to do, but the fact of the matter is that at the end of the day, they're just turbine-based systems. I mean, this is the weirdness. Like, all nuclear power plants are just turning a turbine. They heat water, they turn it into steam, and they run it through a turbine.
Yeah, that's always been interesting to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, if we could get fusion figured out, we'd be done. As a species, we'd be done. Right. Fusion reactions are basically the holy grail right now for our power generation, and everybody with a disposable budget should be pouring money into that technology. But again, competing interests, shall we say?
Mm-hmm. Is it achievable, fusion?
Yeah, we've achieved it. It's theoretical. It's not only theoretically, but it is in practicality achievable. There's a couple of problems. Yeah, we've done it. The problem is maintaining the reaction, the replacement of the fuel for the maintaining of that reaction, and the scaling of that reaction.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, for Toos, hasn't South Korea managed to run a fusion reactor for a couple of seconds? That's the thing. Is we need it, and oh yes, and Just Bender and the energy we put into it. But Spider-Man 2, how much waste is Fuel Rods making at present? I mean, it's not a huge amount. It's let's do for the Karina. Let's see, spent nuclear fuel. How much? See, this is the thing. There's not actually. We generate 2,000 metric tons of fuel rods per year. So we've produced 83,000 metric tons since the 1950s. It would all fit on a single football field at a depth of about 10 yards. So I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
The science would be better to say on small scale. Fair enough. Bad hoss. We can do fusion, but it costs more energy than it gives us at the moment. Yeah, and there's lots of examples of that in the past. K-Star, thank you for Toos. Yeah, but we're storing it in mountains and hoping it doesn't get into the groundwater or anything. We're not even storing it in the mountains. Perfluoro, that would be a reference to Yucca Mountain here in the state in which I reside. And it's not even being utilized.
I heard, yeah.
Yeah, it's a NIMBY thing. It's, for those of you not familiar, it's not in my backyard. Nevadans don't want that shit.
Gotcha.
So, that.
Yeah.
There's an urban legend.
Oh, yeah. Tom Scott. Hey, Nefarious. Yeah, it was nearly complete and then abandoned. So where is it going to go? Right now? No, I'm not the squid. That would be Antipodean squid. Or Antipodean squid. Just a fellow streamer and one of the people who are really cool in and around the leftist communities. You may have seen him. But yeah, squid. Hey, there's Cappy. There's the channel mascot. Later, cat. Okay. So, yeah, right now it's being stored on site. In most instances, nuclear facilities in America store their spent fuel rods on site. Good night, Womped.
Yeah.
Which is hugely problematic.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. It's scary as heck, honestly. Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm an environment.
These are not facilities that are meant for long-term storage.
No.
At all. They weren't designed to be that way. But they're just stuck there because they have nowhere else to go. Is my understanding.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We have no place to put them. I mean, we have a place, but we don't have a place that will allow it.
Right. Yeah.
You're telling me I live near Hanford, says himself.
Oh.
Sorry, man. What are your thoughts on lobbying? I don't really know much about it. Do people spend lots of money on it? Is there actually money exchanged to the politicians, or is it just talking with them? I'm curious on your thoughts on the ethics of it. Elle, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, lobbying is a big thing, and does money change hands from into their personal bank accounts? I'm sure it does. For some of them, but we don't necessarily know about that part of it. But it certainly funds people's campaigns, and they also, a lot of folks get jobs out of after they're done with their political appointment. They'll get a job in industry, as a result.
Yeah, and I mean it goes as far as things like, oh hey, we're conducting a symposium on the benefits of clean coal. It's going to be we're going to hold it in the Grand Bahamas at the resort there, right? And we'll pay. Why don't you bring the wife and the kids, and of course your secretary and any of your assistants that you need to bring to facilitate your job and your position as a senator. Just we'll pay for all of it. Don't worry about it. The expense is on us. It's an educational trip for you. And you come on down, and they wine you, they dine you, and they hand you a fucking sheet of talking points. And you go back to Washington, and the next thing you know, you hear this douchebag running the talking points. That's
Exactly.
perfectly legal.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And
Legalized bribery.
oh yeah, the chap put the Australian thorium push for it as well. What's the Aussie thorium in Australia? It's a research paper. Cool. Let's see. Oh, somebody asked about vaccines, apparently. Amherst is responding to them. Finger, imagine being able to, the first to be able to turn nuclear waste into big money. Gates has invested heavily, for you and I, heavily. For Bill Gates, he emptied his fucking right pocket out on the floor, and he slid that over to them. And so, yeah, I think he's invested something like $30 million into a company that does just that, that finds a way to further refine and utilize the spent fuel rods as a primary source of energy production.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Clean coal gone. Let's see. They donate to their latest nonprofit. Yeah, that's perfectly legal too. I sit on the board for a foundation that spends 80% on administrative costs. And if you donate to that charity, then I'll consider your proposition. There's lots of scummy ways that the politicians skim money. And as Elle pointed out, the revolving door between industry and the political class is another huge one. Were you on the board of directors for Boeing? Oh, well, now you're the Secretary of Defense. Or were you the Secretary of Defense? Well, congratulations. Lockheed Martin has a position for you.
Yep. Exactly. 100%.
Yeah, it's just the way it works. And this is hammer that fucking nail. This is one of the many reasons I'm an anarchist, right? Like this shit ain't broken per se. It's working as intended.
Exactly. Listen, Kai, I'm gonna actually head out. I really appreciate you having me on, and I learned a lot actually. So.
What are you producing these days for people to find?
Well, so I've got my memes on my server, and so if you guys are in Kai's Discord, I'm in Kai's Discord, so feel free to DM me and I can get you into my server. And I've got a bunch of they're poems/philosophy essays, and it's a series of them that are meant to be a complete theory of ideology or meditation or religion. Yeah.
It's really fascinating reading. I would I would recommend reaching out to Elle for that. Elle, thanks for stopping by. I always enjoy having you
My
around.
pleasure.
Yeah, it's later.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. Elle from Discord. Literally Elle's username. Let's see. Biggest issue with nuclear right now is that it takes a long time to become CO2 neutral because of how long it takes to build a power plant. That is true. So while a good idea 20 years ago, right now we're late and have better alternatives. Yes, no, some of the construction of some of those alternatives also has the same drawbacks. But again, we should be pushing all of the levers. Like, we should be pushing on all of them at this point. As long as it's, again, not the old fossil fuel shit. Like, our backs are against the wall at this point, folks. Like, anthropogenic climate change is a fucking thing, and we need to start dealing with it. And the countries that need to deal with it are not. We know this. And let's face it, it's industry. It's industry. I've talked about it before. There's something like 14 of the largest shipping container ships on the planet contribute as much sulfur dioxide to the atmosphere as all of the automobiles on the planet. There you go. No. Am I familiar with the Never Again Action Organization? That sounds like... yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like a Jewish political organization of sorts. Oh, yeah. I remember these folks, Skeptic. Yeah, I remember when they were protesting one of the Texas ICE facilities. And they were one of the first ones to, get out there right in front of their gate and start protesting them. Yeah, mad respect. And there's an amazing heritage of Jewish anarchists. There's a whole contingent of Jewish anarchists, especially out of the New York boroughs. Yeah, part of the anarchist history that is just really fascinating to look into. Does fusion use any water at all? Yeah, it's going to. Right now, we're just still in the reaction maintenance phase. But yeah, it would be a heat transfer mechanism more than likely. How would anarchism address the revolving political lobbyist loop? We wouldn't. The fact of the matter is the general answer for that would be, from an anarchist point of view, would be to retract from that. There's two competing, the left speaks. There's two competing camps, or not even competing, but there's two schools of anarchistic thought, right? You've sort of got the Emma Goldman school of thought. Electoralism be damned. It has never done us any good. And fuck that system entirely. Build a co-concurrent system, right? Then there's the other camp that is sort of like a sort of Chomsky-esque inspired system. And that it is very pragmatic in their anarchism. And that's sort of where I'm closer to. The fact of the matter is that the anarchistic methodology is not capable of doing certain things within this system without mass intervention. And without that mass intervention, the best way to go about this is to do everyday praxis and then do the electoralism. Anarchists count it as a day off, basically. Right? We're about mutual aid and affinity groups and reciprocal relationships and community projects and ground up organizing and... Oh! Who triggered it? Cicero. Hey, Cicero. There are some things that are triggerable by channel points. This will give me a minute 20. Let rest my voice. Oh. Hey, Cicero. If you know what this is in reference to, God bless you. We're not going to talk about it. Or whatever you believe in, bless you. Oh. Samantha. Oh. Except it's not up to you to grow food. I mean, I don't know what you're referencing, Bad Hoss. Yes, I did. The non-binary. And welcome back from your shower, non-binary. Yeah, the stabbing. The series of stabbings, right? Who grows food? Okay, so farmers grow food. But you can also alleviate some of that by doing community farming, right? You can start to reintegrate the urban-rural divide that has occurred in this nation by distributing some of these growing tasks. Technology and modern implementations have given rise to things. You can have community farming projects. You can have sort of mutual aid community farming projects that alleviate some of the stress on the food production system, right? Like that's entirely doable. But then you can also have affinity groups, worker cooperatives of growers who produce a wide variety of things. Finger, and yes, that is true. Mister. Oh, God. Samantha. Don't. I get twitchy just seeing it pop up. I know you want to take it back, but it ain't happening. Yeah, are you triggered yet? Yeah, I know, right? I'll grow all the food you need. Well, rock on. When I lived in a more rural county, I was part of an organic collective of backyard farmers. Exactly, Lucy. There's ways to take some of the pressure off of the food system as we've constructed it. There's ways to decentralize it. There's ways to distribute it, and that don't utilize a whole host of huge time requirements and resource sinks. Plus, again, I am not one thing, though I self-describe as an anarchist. There are many methodologies and tools that I have in my tool belt that I have taken from across across the political spectrum and from many different ideologies and philosophies across the board. I advocate for it's my own term, what's called Thesusian incrementalism. It's named after the ship of Theseus' thought experiment. I treat the system as a compartmentalized, modular, componentized system, and that you can change the overall tone and structure of the entirety of the system by changing out enough nodes within the system. And so I operate on that sort of IT level of looking at political science topics. That how do we modularize these, and how do we treat them as independent systems to influence and interact and impact the overall system? DeFreak, are you a farmer in the U.S.? No, but I grew up with a mountaintop property in Vermont, and we did grow most of our own food. I grew up that way, and I built an aquaponics system here in the deserts of Nevada. To handle that. So I'm not inexperienced in this field. We had many acres of produce growing. We had a greenhouse for winter growth as well when I lived in Vermont. Left Speaks, Nevada represent. What's up, Left Speaks? What about Bad Host? Let's see. We have many community gardens all across the Bay Area. Rock on, Samantha. That's what you got to do. I got most of my produce, and from it, eggs and milk. Yeah. Vertical farming. Yep. A bit energy intensive. Yeah. So people did work for each other too. We collected Tuesdays, divided Wednesdays, sent out email of what we had and people ordered, and we delivered Thursdays. Mostly it was a barter system of produce and labor on 1,900 units per hour, 10 units per hour. All right. Still going, too. Rock on, Lucy. there's alternative methodologies. This I mean, Lucy's perfect example of, you know, implementing that sort of community cooperative food production system that can, while it may at that stage may not be able to produce everything that the community needs, if it alleviates 50 or 65 or 75% of the demands that their local community has. And remember, you can modularize communities down. Like, it could be your, like, just local area, your neighborhood could be doing this. But if everybody starts to operate this way, it becomes a whole other ballgame. Does the pragmatic anarchists let the capitalist plutocracy run us into an hospital? Okay, so Perflora, I hope you respect this response, Perflora, and you've seen pretty with it the whole way through. So that is not something I'm prepared to talk about on a Twitch stream. Okay, let's leave it at that. Yeah, maybe we could beg Papa Gates. Oh Jesus, this shit again? I remember this bot or this person. Living as an artist, it kept me largely fed without having to have a job. If you have abandoned warehouses, oh fuck me, I love squats. I love squats. The UK anarchist scene is so amazing with squats. Yeah. In that system, what about meat production? It depends himself. That depends who you speak with. Hey, Joe. Okay. Just, you know. Ooh. For those of you who are new that don't know, like I suffer from an autoimmune driven polyneuropathy. For small fiber neuropathy, so I'm in constant pain, and you'll see me do various reactions and stuff, or like, you know, it's like there's a lot going on with my nervous system at any given moment. Let's just put it that way. Oh yeah, I could use an uncrossing of the legs for sure. Thank you, Estrella. Oh, fuck me. Oh. 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 Yeah, it's the 5th of March. I still have power. Yeah, apparently the military coup. Yeah, life is suffering. Exactly, Viva. Rock on, Bad Oz. What kind of farm? And especially if you like horses. I'm not a fan of horses. Some bad childhood incidents. Let's just put it that way. My roommate has neuropathy. I see you, dude. Thank you himself. Yeah, it's a whole fucking thing, right? No worries. For that person, wait. What did Lucy say? We had a butcher that came once or twice to do people's animals. For that person who, animal growth isn't that complicated, to be perfectly honest. Animal husbandry is a whole fucking thing. Weed is legal here now. Where are you, DeFreak? Farm that stuff. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I was like, who just went legal? Yeah, animal husbandry is a whole fucking thing. Don't let me, like, I'm not saying that it isn't a complex task, right? It is. But for a backyard farmer to raise a few chickens, maybe a hog, it really isn't that huge of a deal. It really isn't. And so, yeah, you could do what Lucy's community did, and once, twice, 3 times a year, you can pay for, you can contract out one way or the other to a butcher, a mobile abattoir, to come on through and handle that for you. Oof, dude, I have a lot of neuropathy with my spinal cord injuries. It's a bitch, Lucy. It's a bitch. Bad Hoss is BC, Canada. All right. Rock on. It was a trap. Yeah, I know, Amherst. That was fucking weird as shit I saw. No, you can't neglect them. That's huge. Yeah, I mean, basic animal care. Karina, hello, hey, fellow BC. Yep, we got a few regular Canadians. Hang on, just getting a DM. Oh, yeah. Elle, if you're still here, shoot it. Hey, Zumi. Is it immoral to take an animal as a husband? For those of you who were here earlier and are interested in L's Discord and some of L's like philosophy, because I do, L will has a little humility, saying that she's I'm somewhat of a philosopher. L is working on creating a philosophy, like an actual proper ideology. So Elle is gonna put into chat like her website, and probably the website has the Discord link. So look for that in a minute. People had 1 or 2 cows, goats, pigs, a bunch of turkeys, chickens, ducks in their large or small yards. Rock on. Would old school anarchism? Hey, there it is. psychoharmony.com. You can click the Discord link at the top to join the server. DM me if you want to read the theory. Would old school anarchism be chaos with peace? No. Anarchism is not chaos. It is not disorganization. In the words of Proudhon, anarchism is order. I know since the 1880s into the 1920s, about mid-1920s, there was a very concerted effort by the United States government to color anarchists in a specific light, especially following the Haymarket massacre. It's a whole fucking thing. There's an entire history of trying to convince people that anarchism is chaos and that it is social disruption, that it is this, it's violence and that sort of thing. And not to deny anarchism's own history. There was an era of violent anarchism. Like, there were, especially the Spanish and Italian anarchists, they were in it for sure. So there's no getting around that. But the fact of the matter is that, the Argentinians. Shout out to the Argentinians. Their anarchist contingent did a whole fucking thing. Yes, anarchy is a rejection of hierarchy, not chaos. And again, collapsing down of hierarchical power structures into what's called a hierarchy or horizontal organizational structure, and a philosophical challenging of power and authority mechanisms, wherever they may lie, and the dismantling and replacement thereof. It's actually Christopher Nolan's fault. Yes, Morpheus. Yes, we don't, due to, Twitch and legality, like, I really don't. Hey, Curio, and Curio's people. Yeah, Morpheus. I really don't get into that era. I don't talk much about it other than just sort of referencing it and let people do their own reading on it. But yes, Morpheus, that era. Hey, Adia, sorry. Yes. Non-binary. When May rolls around, feel free to come by. On May 1st, I do a May Day episode where I do the telling of the Haymarket affair. I tell the story. So, how was your stream, guys, gals, and be friends? I love that. Somebody said, how about give you a hard question? All right, Bad Hoss, feel free. Degenerate. Sounds about right. For those of you who don't follow Curio that came over that are still here from Kay's stream, Curio is very vaudevillian comedy, anecdotes, storytelling, sometimes music, sometimes poetry, maybe a tarot reading or two here or there. It's what I call my dive bar. Curio's my dive bar. It's where we go to decompress. Does anarchism punish shoplifting or assault, etc.? How? I bet it. I bet it, but want to vigil. I bet. Okay. All right. So Zumi, here's the deal. One, shoplifting really wouldn't be much of a thing except for compulsive shoplifting. Under an anarchistic organized society, you would address not only the material and subsistence conditions, but the conditions necessary for an individual to thrive within society. So there would be non-punitive justice. There would be, sort of restorative justice cycles. But once you eliminate the, the subsistence, material, and thriving conditions necessary for an individual to be successful in society, and give them access to things like mental health care at the ready and social workers and stuff like that, the chances of shoplifting happening are decreased just hugely, exponentially in that instance. But occasionally you're going to have sort of, mental illness and that sort of thing. Somebody who has a compulsive shoplifting habit, that sort of thing. They would be channeled into non-punitive justice systems, right? It would be get you the help you need to, maybe address this issue. As far as assault goes, again, we would be addressing those systems prior to, right? And of course, there would be transitionary periods, people who grew up in this sort of punitive Calvinistic justice systems that are, just obsessed with vengeance rather than rehabilitation. You're going to have transitionary periods, of course, but what happens when you can't reform a criminal? Society and the individual both have the right to self-defense. And if that means isolation, then that means isolation. But you do it in the most humane and egalitarian manner as possible, as you can construct. And I would point to somebody like Norway and their prison systems and how they look as to what it would be conceivably look like. Yes, this person has shown time and again that they refuse to be rehabilitated, that their recidivism rate is through the roof. Okay, fine. You have to isolate them one way, shape, or form. They're violent and they refuse to, all of our attempts to modify or rectify their behavior have failed. Then, yeah, society and the individuals both have the right to self-defense. And so you would isolate them, but you would do it in a facility that is far, far from what we conceive of. And the closest thing that I can point to is something like a Nordic prison. Like Norway has a few of these that you would look at and be like, there we go. That's what it's like. You treat them like a fucking human being. You give them everything you possibly could give them and all the tools with the hope that maybe one day they do change, that there isn't a final condemnation on their soul, that you do ultimately get that there is potential. Maybe in 20 years, maybe in 30 years, who the fuck knows? But eventually there's still hope. That you never let go of that hope. And you give them access to counselors and educators and social workers, and all of that sort of stuff. That's your prison system, that sort of thing. And, for an American brain, prison system invokes a whole other thing. And so that's why you have to sort of, being in a Norwegian prison is on my bucket list. Love it. Where does anarchy start and totalitarianism begin in society? Wait. Where does anarchy start and totalitarianism begin in society? That's a weirdly amalgamated question. Bad Hoss, where does anarchy start? It starts with the individual. Where does totalitarianism begin? It begins with the authority. If I wanted to sort of end run that question. Hey, Sue. How does the speed limit work in anarchism? Is that where the commie government comes in? The getting you the help you need is super base, especially with mental illness, etc. Most death row inmates have significant PFC injuries that they can't even control. I know, right? How does the speed limit work in anarchism? It really wouldn't. The fact of the matter is that unless you become a danger to yourself, to others, the individual autonomy under anarchism would dictate that, if you are alone on a road, most anarchists wouldn't give a shit. Like, it's only when you flip your car and now community resources have to be spent extricating you and shit like that, that it becomes an issue. But as far as prescriptive, prefigurative laws, such as a speed limit, it's not something most anarchists actually concern themselves with. We talked about it earlier. But as far as anarchists go, there is no project of projects, right? Like for most leftist ideologies, there's a project of projects that like they are prefigurative ideologies, whereas anarchism is about this state of individual autonomy to the benefit of the group. This is where we differ with like libertarians, right? Libertarians are all about the sort of Randian objectivism, right? The empowerment of the individual to the benefit of the individual, right? Anarchists still have that community, that society. Anarchists are big into communities and society, right? We don't like the state. That's our thing. The state has a monopolization of violence. It's an ossified set of power relationships, and that's where we sort of digress. Anarchists don't like a project of projects. We don't, in Marxian terminology, we don't write recipes for the cookshops of the future, right? If I'm going to empower the individual to have true autonomy, to be able to have free association and reciprocal relationships, and to form affinity groups, and to utilize this as a foundational set of either direct democracy or consensus decision making within a communal set, then it's stupid. It is poor. It is just poor ideological principles for me to attempt to prefigure that state, because I don't know what it will look like. I don't know what that group will need. I don't know what their wants will be. So we just we say, okay, we embrace the dynamism. We embrace the living nature of those relationships. And there are, I've talked about it before, where this isn't something that's theoretical. Indigenous communities have been doing this for fucking ages. There's African tribes that are still doing it. The Berbers of the Atlas Mountains still do this sort of thing. The U.S. military has entire instruction manuals on hierarchical organizational structure for field operations. Some of the most fascinating studies on this were done by the British Architectural Association. Because they did a study of centralized architectural houses versus decentralized architectural houses, and how, a hierarchical organizational structure versus a hierarchical organizational structure, and how they produce better, the hierarchical produces better product for customers. This is a thing. Like, it just has been for ages. So preserving human life, etc., would be part of the project of projects. Is that correct? Perflora, generally speaking, anarchists do follow like some version of the non-aggression principle, one way or the other. Most anarchists do follow that as well. I know the NAP is huge for libertarians, but anarchists do follow that sort of thing. Like, look, individuals and society has the right to self-defense. And so, the inherent value of life is generally recognized by anarchists. Maybe not Stirner. Stirner is a bit of a sociopath, but that is what it is. All right. Let me just catch up here. Would seatbelts be held in similar regard? Probably, actually, Perflora. Probably. Yeah, in Australia, the more you're connected to your community, the less likely you're going to drive recklessly or have road rage. And hey, there's Cappy. Hi, Cappy. Remember what Cappy says, do no harm, but take no cap. Cappy's the channel mascot. How is it better than socialism? Socialism is hierarchical. Also, there's substitutionalism and professionalism. There's professionalism or specialization with substitutionalism and socialism. So essentially, you become subservient to the ideology rather than the ideology becoming subservient to you. You end up working for the party rather than the party working for you under that sort of status. And it's happened time and again. I mean, history is our record on that one. It doesn't work. Anarchy is a rejection of hierarchy, and totalitarian, where hierarchy is paramount. Wait, that doesn't work. Anarchy is the rejection of hierarchy, and totalitarian, where hierarchy is paramount. What's totalitarian again? Well, let's go to the definition. All right. Totalitarianism is a concept of for a form of government or political system that prohibits opposition parties, restricts individual opposition to the state and its claims, and exercises an extremely high degree of control over public and private life. All right, so Bad Hoss. Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I said. Like, anarchy can never be totalitarian. Well, I'm in agreement again. I mean, anarchism is about this challenging of authority mechanisms. It's about collapsing down of hierarchical power structures. It's about individual autonomy. I don't understand what this difficult question is supposed to be. Totalitarianism is the other end of that spectrum. It's a rank form of authoritarianism, and authoritarianism is contraindicated to anarchism. Like, that's where literally anarchism is literally anti-authoritarian. Or maybe you're not even speaking to me. Maybe you're speaking to somebody in chat. I don't know. Oh. Just switch a little bit ago. Let's see. Oh. Neck did crack. Aren't some hierarchies justified? Yes. And that's the thing is, I mean, there's the argument of, or the example of, oh wait, hang on, Sassy. A parent grabs a child's arm before they step out into traffic because a car is coming, right? This is a microcosmic example of a hierarchical power relationship in action that is completely justified. Yeah. It meets ethical guidelines. It meets moral guidelines. Well, though most anarchists are very hesitant to go out on moralistic grounds, we tend to refer to ethics more than morals. Oh, hey there. Sorry, I wasn't scrolled down. Hey, Sue. I didn't see you there.
Hey, what up?
Not much. You guess who rated me?
Prime Kai?
Yeah, K's. Yeah, but yeah, we're just doing whether men will admit it or not. Men require leadership. Hard disagree. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. I have worked with anarchistically organized people of the entire spectrum. Like American, non-American, Central, South American, some Asian, some European. I don't think I've
American Vespucci, the pickle king of the world.
Amerigo Vespucci. Yeah, and I mean men, women, non-binary, trans, you name it. Like, it's honestly, it works. Once you come to terms with it, there's an adaptation period. Sue, how long did it take you to come to terms? Like, I would make it comparable. How long did it take you to sort of come to terms with your indigenous heritage and sort of take that on board?
Immediately.
Well, that's a better success rate than fucking what anarchists have. Takes us a little bit to get people over the hump.
I mean, you go through your learning stages or learning struggles, so to speak. But
that's more what I'm talking about. Like, I mean, because there's a lot of different stuff. And how long does that like, especially societal organizational stuff? Like,
well, okay, I usually put it this way. However long you were sitting back, stuck, being brainwashed, till the time when you actually started to wake up and smell the coffee, is usually around the length of time that it would take someone to heal from it and to like get themselves fully immersed into a better way of thinking and living. albeit that also leaves room for the more stubborn people who may take a little longer, and some people may take less.
Fair enough.
It literally, it's like it's, how do I put it? It's like a loose scale.
Fair enough. Yeah, I've seen people pick up some of our organizing principles on a weekend, right? Like literally a weekend seminar, and they're up to speed on consensus decision making. They're up to speed on decentralized or distributed network organizational structures. They understand how a co-op is structured and organized. Like I've seen that shit happen on a weekend, but I've also seen people struggle with conceptualizing, having to internalize these conceptual ideas for years. And so, yeah, I get.
It literally varies. It's not set in stone.
If we could only get that done.
It depends on the individual.
Amherst,
You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Amherst, maybe, who knows? I guess I hope that the AI are driving before we get into anarchism. I feel like all roads would be a lot worse. Perfora, we'll see. Bad Hoss, I'm a filthy neoliberal who's a capitalist. Well, that goes without saying. Neolibs are capitalists. Neoliberals embrace laissez-faire capitalism probably more than fucking right-wingers do. So, yeah. Redundancy Department of Redundancy. Redundancy Department of Redundancy. Yeah. Anyway. As a former dominatrix, I call bullshit. Yeah, Lucy fucking said that men need leaders. A former pro dominatrix. What country has the closest approximation of anarchism? Is it just exercise and mental masturbation? No, there's lots of fucking people that pull this off. So which country? One, anarchist wouldn't recognize a fucking country to start with, right? But it depends who you want to talk about. I mean, to what scale and what degree? Puerto Real in Spain has a bunch of anarcho-syndicalists that are basically running that shit right now. They started with the docks and the ports, and they moved out from there. Healthcare, education, tax structure, environmentalism, community organizing, worker cooperatives. Puerto Real is doing like a whole anarcho-syndicalist thing right now. You could talk about Zomia, which is a loosely defined region that stretches from like Southeast Asia all the way over to the border of Pakistan. That's got approximately 100 million people in it. That is very much like sort of tribal in nature, loose associations of federated communities that follow very anarchistic principles without being anarchists, right? Anarchists would say that they are living under a state of anarchy rather than practicing anarchism. You have places like on a microcosmic scale, you have places like Trumbleplex, which is right outside of Detroit, Michigan, who is an active anarchistic commune with residences in a theater and an arts center and a library and all of that sort of stuff. And so then you have, you have historical examples as well. I mean, you've got Ukraine, you've got Spain, you've got Korea. We have a regular member, Kaiser, whose family was a part of that in Korea. And so, it just depends where. And Cospaya in Italy, which lasted for 375 years and became such a threat to the Papal States that they ended up fucking blockading them and starving them out. It just depends which one you're talking about. Let's see. Leadership isn't incompatible with anarchy. Let's take a metaphorical ship. Oh, the ship example. Yeah, the ship is, classic example of high seas anarchism. The captain, navigator, all of that. But if you apply pirates, by the way, pirates were basically anarchists. They were operating under a whole host of anarchistic principles, direct democracy, election, that sort of stuff. If we apply the pirates' rules, the captain is an elected position. However, you just don't change the captains during the battle. I need to fix a sandwich. Forgot to eat again. Be right back. Oh, no worries. Lucy, no worries. Without leadership, reinforcing the way towards a goal would be neglecting the anarchy way, right? No, you don't. It's honestly, here, maybe it's time to fucking do some reading here. because this is one of those things that I can talk to you about how the Berbers of the Atlas Mountains and how the Tiv and the Dinka and all of these other societies, these South American tribes, and how the Iroquois League or Confederacy operated on in a decentralized, not even decentralized, but a distributed direct democracy system that was far more effective than ours. We just took some of the federating principles and ran with it.
And may I also point out that the Iroquois Confederacy was made in a matriarchal society, not a patriarchal society. It says literally listen to the warnings of the women, not whether or not they needed the approval.
Yeah, and so I mean, look, I've got a bunch of fucking examples. I've got books. I've got an entire anarchist library at this point, right? Like, I'm not. I got a pretty face, but I'm almost 40, folks. Like, I'm almost 40. And I'm not new to this. I'm not fucking LARPing. I've done this, and it works. It just works. And I know it's really difficult for a Western mind to come to terms with the idea that there can be non-hierarchical organizational structures of society, and they can still accomplish goals, and that they're capable of self-organization. But there are business groups, like there are think tanks that look into this stuff now, because what we're finding, and for the neolib, right? Like, if there are any neolibs amongst us, I know there's at least one for the neolib. These types of structures, these types of organizational structures in the business world are more productive, more resilient to downturns in the economy, produce higher levels of happiness in your employees, lower rates of turnover in your employees, and according to the British the British Architectural Association study that looked into it, produce better end products for your customer. There was higher rates of satisfaction from the customers from the decentralized and distributed organizational structures within architectural houses versus the centralized hierarchical structures. And so there are very tangible capitalistic benefits to start talking about some of these organizational structures as well. And like I said, the U.S. military has some fascinating studies on hierarchical organizational structure for field operations, because there are times that they don't have time, they don't have the time, or it is a critical moment. You can't run it up the chain of command. And so they're part of their officer school training actually teaches them hierarchical organizational structure. And so we could go through classic examples. We could go through historical examples. We could go through contemporary examples. But the fact of the matter is that the easiest way is to just go visit in something that's anarchistically organized and get involved and see how it operates. See what a workers' co-op feels like. And, then you start to get the handle. You grasp it a little bit better, because most people learn experientially. It just clicks. If you need to meet someone in the middle, never start in the middle. Satch up. For floral. Let's see. So AOC is the anarchist leader. Yes, 100%. AOC is the anarchist leader. And Joseph Biden is the leader of anarcho-Bidenism, if you want to meme the shit out of it. Zumi, I think of indigenous. Let's not go Indian. I think of indigenous tribes as a good example, especially before colonialization. Yes, they are. They kind of perfected it to a certain degree. They had a couple of years doing it.
Yep.
And this is the thing. Anarchistic organizational structures within society crop up when everything else fails. When everything else fails, people, they automatically fall back to this. 50% of agriculture and industry during the Spanish Civil War was being produced by anarchistically organized communes, right? This is just one of those historical things, right? When push came to shove and everything else was falling apart around them, human beings can self-organize. We can. It's just a thing. I have an inflation. Let's see. Politics is like trying to end the war on drugs globally. It's not going to be end overnight, but please end the war on drugs. Zajab, oh my God. Just talk about bullshit hierarchies. Hey, you know that thing on the ground? Yeah, you can't ingest it. Why? Because I said so. Great. I have an inflation question for you since you're American. How much nominally in cash is needed, anarchist? I mean, nominal value, I think $3,000 is probably the going rate for what a human being in America needs to have saved to weather any emergency issue. Now, are you talking about an anarchistic system? I mean, are we talking market anarchism, non-market anarchism? I mean, that's this thing, but you're saying like an inflationary question, how much, nominal value of cash is needed. And then you just said anarchist, like you're just kind of accusingly pointing at my chest, anarchist. I mean, how much cash do you need? About $3,000. That will help you weather most emergencies and downturns and, get you food on the table in this country.
So in Canada, Boss Hoss, that would be times that like by about 6, and you maybe be able to squeeze through. Maybe.
Yeah, non-medical emergencies. Exactly, Amras. Yeah, I should. Non-medical emergencies. Medical emergencies, just declare bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Welcome to America. Fox, what are the odds that the so-called self-identified neoliberal has no clue what that means?
Boss Hoss, in the States, 3K is easier than would be compared to like up here in Canada, where the prices are extremely high in comparison.
Perfloro. Yes, I want to feel the co-op. Love it, Perfloro. Boss. Okay, so bad is Canadian. BC. BC is where bad is from.
I don't know what you're worrying about. Bad, because BC is more.
We'd like to congratulate drugs for winning the war on drugs. But why 3,000? Just based off of a few various studies I've read over the years, plus what I know people have in their bank accounts for emergencies, and based off of just my general experience having lived in America for coming up on 40 years. 3,000. I mean, car troubles alone will drain that 3,000. If you get laid off, that 3,000 will, in many locations, cover your rent and food for the month. As long as you don't have, like an entire family, like if you don't have the whole like Mormon span of family that you have to pay for, 3,000 will get you over the hump. But that's sort of where that 3,000 is coming from. Give a fake.
Not what you were at, Bad Hoss.
Oh. Police get on the ground. Get on the fucking ground. Search warrant. We claim we smelled marijuana. Give a fake name and dip if you can. Yeah, I know, right, Australia? Once we have the zombie invasion, we can rebuild back with a better anarchist society. To whole Justice Department is a fucking joke. No argument there, DeFreak. No argument there. Shit's expensive in an emergency. Is anarchism bogged down with the canons of political correctness? I want to live in a country where stand-up comedians are free to let it rip. Zomia. Zumi. Like all things in this world, it depends. If you hang out with the post-left anarchists, not at all. It's just not a thing. It's not a thing. There's an essay I can send you explaining how they arrive at that philosophical conclusion, and their critiques thereof. But there are some that are. Yeah, it just depends. There's a spectrum. But at one end of the spectrum, complete non-concern. Yeah. It's an arbitrary number, sometimes used to make statistics on people that have enough saved to deal with emergency. You know, I thought, so you put it 2,000. Yeah, Amorous, the 2,000 doesn't work for me. I mean, that wouldn't cover, like, that would cover my rent for a month, right? That would cover my rent.
With nothing else. Just
Hey,
only rent.
Googleizer, hey there. If you're Mormon, maybe sell your kids. Posada anarchism. Lying to the cops is not legal. Yes, that is correct. Lying to the cops is not legal, but them lying to you is perfectly legal and encouraged and just part of their regular everyday routine. Meeting over. Did I miss something? Just a bunch of theory, bunch of talk, history, theory, that sort of stuff, Eva. Nothing too major. You think Trump was bad? The first gamers in politics are going to be lit. Oh, Jesus, a chap. No, my number might be higher. My farm is 1.4 million. Well, then there you go. Oh, shit. Yeah. The Pot Brothers at Law. God, I love these guys. Fuck it. Let's put it on the screen. I don't think they run a copyright on their shit. Who gives a fuck?
I mean, the worst they're gonna do is fucking silence it on Twitch and maybe take some revenue off YouTube. If you
Oh no, I've had complete video blocks done by YouTube.
really?
Yeah. I thought I was in that camp too. I was like, oh, the least they do, blah 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 blah.
Mark and Craig, Pop Brothers at Law, as promised, how to get pulled over. You're driving along, minding your own business, and suddenly you see those lights come up behind.
What are my view on trans people? Trans people are people. They're people, just like you and me. Respect their right to existence and try not to be a dickhead. If you could help them along the way, help them. Given the rate of suicide amongst trans youth, I mean, hell, just LGBT youth, but trans youth have a much higher rate of suicide than even, gay and lesbian, bisexual youth. If we could do something for that, but they're people. Like, let's just treat them like human beings, please. That'd be a great starting position.
That would be a great start. That would be.
Yeah. If we could just start treating all human beings like they're human beings, that would be a solid starting position. Just say. Jesus Christ.
You, and you get a little nervous and shaky, you need to immediately pull over to the right as soon as it is safe and clear. Use your blinker. You don't want to get caught for not using your blinker as well. Pull over to the side of the road. Turn your engine off and make sure your windows roll down just enough to pass your documents through, license, insurance, and registration. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Make sure the officer knows where your hands are at all times. And when he comes up on you and asks you anything, that's when you're going to start in with the script. But it's very important that you keep your license, insurance, and registration nearby. We recommend right up on the visor in the little slot that's there, so you can pull it. He always knows where your hands are. Don't reach for anything, and we will continue with more info. Mark and Craig, Pop Brothers at Law, part 2 of how to get...
Oh, this isn't the one. Hold on. There we go.
Mark and Craig, Pop Brothers at Law. We've been warning people, if you are working for an unlicensed dispensary, an illegal dispensary, and it gets raided, you need to shut the fuck up. If you shut the fuck up, you have a good chance that we can make the case go away. Case in point, 3 employees of an illegal shop were busted during a raid. 2 of them said, oh, I'm just volunteering here. The third guy shut the fuck up. And the DA did not prosecute the guy who shut the fuck up. They can't prove what you were doing there. If you're a customer, a patient, walked in to go to the bathroom, they don't know. You got to shut the fuck up, and it's Shut the Fuck Up Friday. So review the script. What do you say when the cop first pulls you over?
Why'd you pull me over?
And when he keeps asking questions?
Not discussing my day.
And they ask more questions?
Am I being detained or am I free to go?
And if detained, what do you say?
I invoke the 5th.
And then what do? You
shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up Friday. Never answer questions when the cops ask.
Have safe holidays.
I love those guys. Shut the fuck up. Don't talk to the cops. Don't talk to the cops. Nothing good happens. Yep, shut the fuck up Fridays. Pot Brothers at Law. God love them. Let's see. All right, so the one that used a derogatory term for trans people got timed out for 600 seconds. Then there's somebody talking about the Antichrist in chat, which is just adorable. You won't be saying that as you burn in hell. Actually, see, this is the thing. As far as I'm concerned, hell is probably the best place, right? Yeah, eternal suffering, blah, blah, blah. No, that's Satan's kingdom, right? That is Lucifer's kingdom. And Lucifer has been collecting all of the coolest people throughout time, right? All of the people that Judeo-Christian religions, well, not even Judeo, because the Jews don't believe in hell. All of the Christian, Islamic faiths that have been condemning to hell are all the coolest, most interesting people. So you're going to be surrounded by fascinating people of all types. You're going to have the best fucking music. You're going to have probably the best food, the best sex. And let's remember, Lucifer himself, or itself, I mean, angelic entity, was the first rebel. All Lucifer wanted was to be treated equal, and he got condemned and cast out for it. Right? So this is a dude who from step one, day one, was just like, hey, can't we just all get treated equally in the eyes of the Lord? And God was like, no, fuck you. And I'm creating your own kingdom that you can rule over. Come on. Hell is going to be the interesting place. Heaven, in the Christian sense, is going to be a fucking bunch of like uptight Mormons and like, you know, Seventh-day Adventists and shit like that. Like, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun. So, you know, when Christians come along and condemn me to an eternity of hell, cool. Rock the fuck on. At least Hendrix will be there.
This is what I always take from an old indigenous leader. When they hung him, and they tried to use the old, well, you know, confess your sins and repent and yada yada bullshit. He said, if heaven is where you rapist, piece of shit, scum, genocidal scumbags go, then I'll go to hell. Then I'll go to hell. As far away from you sick fucks as I possibly could be.
Jeez. Hey, Kaiser, Jesus was Korean. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's like, look, as long as there's no Jehovah's Witnesses, Hendrix will be in heaven. No, he won't. Erica should be allied to the hatred of the Antichrist. The UN world government is trying to control you and me. They are the Antichrist. So when you make your aluminum foil hat, man of the right, is it like one of those classic like paper fold hats that you like the captain's hat that we all made as children? Or is it like sort of a dome thing and you sort of crumple it all up? I just want to know what your construction of your tinfoil hat looks like. And does the foil hat protect from 5G? Yes, exactly, Perfloro. Hey, there's the tinfoil hat from Grogot. Yeah, Mitre dropping the curio take. If you've never smoked crack, then you're a racist, and that's a fact. They updated the tinfoil hat. They did? Oh, shit. Nobody sent me the specs, Viva. Oh, fuck. Does that mean that my tinfoil hat hasn't been protecting me from, I don't know, Jewish space lasers? These people are batshit insane. And the 5G Rona. Yes, exactly. Come on, Mr. CIA man. Yes, because the tankies all accuse the anarchists of being CIA. That's the hilarity, right? Like we get hit from the right with this like, you know, we just want to burn society shit. And then from our left, basically we get hit with you're working for the government. Like, how much? Hey! There's the tank healers. Oh, it's now a beanie. Oh, all right. Hey, Skularu. Oh. I'm anti-Trump. Why is Trump not anarchist? Trump is literally like a trust fund baby who was president of the United States. How could he ever? I mean, he would have to literally do a 180 to be an anarchist. Like, he's the epitome. He's the very visage of hierarchical systems. So what is Trump? Trump is a capitalist. He is an authoritarian. There's even an argument to be made if you use Umberto Eco's 14 characteristics of fascism, that he is a fascist. But he is most assuredly an authoritarian. So he is the opposite. He would be the antithesis of an anarchist. Whiny baby wannabe oligarchs, generally speaking, are the opposite of decentralized power structures. Trump is a neo-lib and a fascist. See, there's nefarious. Yeah. He's a salesman. Amorous, anarchism and fascism are the same thing. I believe in horseshoe theory. I'm very intelligent. Oh, you can't go there because it's not real. Grow up, Adia. Oh, heaven does exist, and thinking otherwise will keep you from going there. Yeah, again, Jet Bigler, it just sort of depends whose characteristics of fascism that you utilize. There are differing opinions on this matter, and I do recognize it. I would just generally call him an authoritarian. And I think that abstraction satisfies most people. But again, as I said, if you utilize Umberto Eco's checklist, then it gets a little more tenuous. Yes, Sue?
I was just going to say, Jesus was an anarchist. So I don't know what the fuck y'all talking about.
He
hardcore communist anarchist.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't meet the qualification. The whole like Sky Daddy thing kind of rules him out from the anarchist camp. But he was definitely like socialist communist territory. You know, he spoke at length about giving up your wealth and distributing it to the community, and he, you know, talked mad shit about, you know, what would become capitalism, and about rich people in general and how they suck across the board, kings, and all of these sorts of topics. Cheat sheet, kaisthings.com, cs.kaisthings.com. I've got a section with Bible quotes and stuff that are utilized for multiple purposes. There's a few different sections, but there's one for capitalism. Supply side Jesus, however, yeah, Jesus talked mad shit. He did. I've written an essay before on, it's called How to Piss Off Jesus, and it's utilizing the various tellings of the cleansing of the temple. And it's, you know, there's at least 2 instances in the Bible, separate instances of the cleansing of the temple. Hi, Mia. And so, yeah, it's a fascinating look into that. Jesus was a capitalist. Nice try. All right, let me pull it. Anti-capitalist. All right, so let's see. All who believed were together and had all things in common. They would sell their possessions and goods and distribute their proceeds to all as any had need. Oh, that sounds a lot from each according to their ability to each according to their need. I don't know. Weird. He has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty. Interesting. Maybe not a fan of the rich people. Now the whole
sound like a capitalist to me.
Now the whole group of those who believed were of one heart and soul. Commune much? And no one claimed private ownership of any possessions, but everything they owned was held in common. Weird. Sounds pretty in favor of capitalism. There was not a needy person among them, for as many as owned lands or houses sold them and brought the proceeds of what was sold. They laid it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to each as any had need. Interesting. Private ownership. Again, out the window.
Yeah, people gave up everything.
Blessed are you. Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. But woe to you who are rich, who have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full now, for you will be hungry.
Hitler made what choice did Hitler make? Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Goodbye. Let's see. Oh, then there's the Luke parable of the ruler. A certain ruler asked him, "Good teacher, what must I do?" Yeah, well, you can follow me, but you're already banned. What are my religious beliefs? Honestly, I have this is the backstory. I constructed my own religion, basically. That's the long and short of it. Back when I was doing conlangs or constructed languages, in my early 20s, I was finding that I liked some things, I didn't like some things, I had some ideas of my own, and so, yeah. Is it? No, it's the same one. Yeah, and so I sort of put together my own thing, and so that's what I do. Yeah. From Straya. Oh, we have a huge contingent actually in the community. Jet from Australia. Let's see. Jesus, that guy he's special. He's special.
Hey, speaking of Australia, look at hi 6 foot ant.
Yeah, 6 foot rated in with Prime. Oh shit, that's great. I like that. Viva. Mia. Oops, that's wrong key combination. This is a callback to earlier for sure. But throw it on screen. It's Viva's new hat. I'm down. Let's see. And back. There we go. All right, scroll back. Working, doing stuff. Yeah, Clinton was worse than Trump, that's for sure. That's Obama's doing a bit, but Trump's, I don't know. I think, from my point of view, they're all pretty bad. I was secular until I met Jesus Christ. Can I force you to be a capitalist? I mean, capitalism already inherently is a coercive and exploitative system. It's already coercing us all into participating in it. If you don't, okay, so strictest definition, unless you own means of production, then you're not a capitalist. Right? Strictest definition. If you don't own a mine or a factory or something along those lines, you're not really a capitalist, right? Managers would be classically referred to as like petite bourgeois. So that intermediary class wouldn't even be full bourgeois. Bourgeoisie, they would be petite bourgeois. So
I'm wondering what's going to wake them up and realize that all these so-called capitalist heroes that they're talking about and trying to hold up in high regard, like they're a god, all live under socialism. They just make the rest of the population live in capitalism.
It's yeah, I mean there is an argument to be made that there is communism for the 1%. That there is this sort of stateless society, like transnational stateless society. I would argue that the classless definition starts to break down very quickly. But there's definitely an argument about, socialization of costs that are happening at that level and that sort of thing, for sure. And most of us have, rugged individualism and, hierarchical capitalism to fall back on. Crusher. Yeah, I don't call myself spiritual. Like, that's just not a thing. For me, it's a thing I do that's for me, not for you, and I'm never going to really put it out there for you, right? Like, it's not something I talk about. I will talk theology. I am an ordained minister. We actually have 5 ordained ministers in my community at large. And, you know, a couple of us have like education in some of this. And so I will talk religion. I will speak on the topic of, you know, theology and religion, especially Western religions. What was that, Sue?
I think we did that one night, didn't we?
Oh yeah. We got, I think 4 of the 5 on the line one night. Yeah. We did a theological discussion one night. So I'm comfortable in that arena. But as far as my own personal, you know, practices, viewpoints, beliefs, that sort of thing, I really don't get into it that often. Just because it's kind of just disgusting when people do that. You know, it's supposed to be intensely personal and, you know, shared in a way that doesn't demean it. And so, you know, yeah, I just don't get into that stuff that often. My grandfather's an Anglican priest. Rock on. Elon's going to bootstrap to the Mars. Was I raised Catholic? No, I was not raised Catholic. Let's see. New Zealand gang. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was raised Lutheran, First Lutheran Church.
Oh, I got some.
Until I woke up and smelled the coffee and realized that all of that is just fucking a bunch of hog shit.
I follow the practice of basically everybody kind of has like a glimmer in it. Like there's like one truth buried under layers of shit. And if you can find it, you know, there's something to it. But, you know, yeah, then you discard most of the rest because most of the rest is usually just a control mechanism. And so no need for that. Scaluru, a New Zealand gang over there, were better than Aussies. I love the Aussie-Australian rivalry, but let's face it, New Zealand doesn't actually exist. What do I consider the essential anarchist literature? Perfloro. Okay, so it depends what you're after, Perfloro. One, based on your name, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say you're probably a reader, but small, medium, or large is my first question usually for people. And then 2, it sort of comes down to, do you want like the history or do you want the theory? Because I mean, there's some intertwining there. Length doesn't deter me. Yeah, with a name like perfluorooctane sulfonic, I presumed as much. Theory more, but yes. All right. Okay, so I would go medium for you. Government of No One, Theory and Practice of Anarchism by Ruth Kinna. It's a little disorganized as far as writing goes, but it's going to do a bunch of theory, but it's also going to talk about some of the formative figures and a little bit of the history. Now, if you want something to read, Flora or anybody else, Demanding the Impossible, A History of Anarchism by Peter Marshall. Now, I will tell you that you have to augment this with something like Anarchism in Latin America. So now you're sort of up to here. And then this isn't even going to cover the indigenous communities. All right. So Demanding the Impossible, History of Anarchism will give you a lot. But if you want a starting place and you're not afraid of a little reading, I would say A Government of No One by Ruth Kinna, which actually will touch on some of the like more indigenous stuff very briefly. Hey, Rogue Ascension, thank you for what? Thank you for the resub, second month. Read that anarchists enable imperialism. Why is that? As far as I can tell, that's a tanky talking point because everybody who isn't a tanky is a CIA or Western imperialist agent. It's sort of become a joke at this point that tankies think everyone is working for the CIA. They're sort of the left's QAnon at this point. So yeah. West Side Aussie here. Zachap is a West Side Aussie. Yeah, way rarer than the rest. Holy shit. All right, so No, what was that book you were referencing with the systems cropping up from necessity? Oh, that wasn't a book. That's a culmination of many studies into anarchism I've done. But if you want to look into like Spanish Civil War, which is a classic example, even Noam Chomsky's on anarchism, because Noam is obsessed with the Spanish Civil War. He wrote his first paper on it when he was like 12 or something like that. So on Anarchism by Noam Chomsky, we'll look into the Spanish Civil War and how the industry and agriculture sort of rolled back and instantly adopted this anarcho-communistic organizing principle. So there you go. Let's see. Many fail to keep the 11th commandment. Keep thy religion to thyself. Yeah, Crusher, look, I don't have a deity. I don't have my definition of God is existence, right? Anything that is, right? The sum totality of it all. That's where I start, basically. And no, it's not looking out for you. No, it won't answer your magic questions, stuff like that. My dad is low key on liberation theology, says Kaiser. Pagan, nice. Raised atheist, became progressive Muslim. That's a weird transition. Interesting. Too many know the word, but not the spirit. That's fair. Okay, so for maps and reading list, please. Zoomy, if you want like a basic, like from primer to middle ground to length, that's where I would tell you. Also, No Gods, No Masters by Guerin, is really good. And there's a bunch more I could recommend, but I mean, yeah, On Anarchism by Noam Chomsky will give you a like real brief. Government of No One by Ruth Kenna will sort of catch you up to speed. And A History of Anarchism by Peter Marshall will definitely make you do some legwork. Let's see. It's the CIA propaganda that got us. I know, right? All the CIA agents in chat, raise your hand, right? Anyone listen to Behind the Bastards? No, I don't listen to them, but I'm aware of them. People bring them to my attention on regular. Thank you for the book recommends, and lol at Tankies thinking we're all the Reagan bird spies. Dude, Tankies they're wacky. That's all I got. They're wacky. CIA took a time machine and inserted their stuff into the original theorists of the original ideas. I mean, compared to some of the shit I hear those guys spout off, that seems reasonable. Yeah, Tankies were occupied killing anarchists, didn't have enough resources to fight capitalism, so it's the anarchists' fault. Rogue Ascension raised his hand. Let's see. Have you read? Oh, yeah. Proudhon. I'd have to go down the hallway to the other bookcase. I don't keep Proudhon in here. But yes, you got to read some Stirner. You got to read some Proudhon. You got to read Kropotkin. You got to read Bakunin. But again, like I was talking to Elle earlier, and there is a movement afoot within anarchist circles to defreak. Anarchism literally is usually very hands-off with religion as long as it's not organized hierarchical religion. Like, look, if you set up some bullshit that says that magic dude with the fancy hat or collar gets like say over someone, anarchists have a problem. But if you have, some belief set that says if you consume this thing and you go vibe with wilderness or people or whatever, we're not getting in the way of any of that. Like, that's intensely individual, and no anarchist would dare usually step foot into that arena. Your beliefs are your beliefs, and as long as they don't become dominant over someone else's autonomy, we're cool. That's all. You can have as much of your spirituality or your religion as long as you don't impose it upon someone else. Let's see. Great podcast. Yeah, everybody recommends it. One of these days I'll get around to them. Blink. Contacts. Fucking contact. Gotta blink them back into place. Any theory of infinity put forth without Messiah is already submitted incomplete. He solves his own equation. Now you can sleep but don't have to worry. What? Whatever. I'm no CIA, but I'm with the Philadelphia Secret Services. Interesting. Forgive me, I'm just catching up on chat. This can't work in CIA. Acting as an Australian's already on my plate. Oh, Rogue. Post-left anarchism. Post-left, post-anarchist is if you're educated on the topic, that's how I would define myself. Is a post-left, post-anarchist. A Newman-esque post-anarchist and a McQuinn, a McQuinn-style post-leftist. Yeah, that's where I would occupy a space. Rogue. So yeah, firmly aware of that. Infinite regress. Nefarious Fox. Theory of infinity. Who created the creator? Infinite regress. You lose. Oh, Hitch was a good guy. He was Zoomy. No, Mister. It's sort of a step back from. Yeah, if you plot left and right, like the post left is over with the left, right? Or on screen, I suppose it's looking like this for you. It's over here, but then it just sort of takes a step back and does an analysis. That's all post-left anarchism is about. It's about a good faith analysis of leftist ideological practices and those that may be contraindicated for an anarchist. That's all. And post-anarchism is basically, it's almost Stirner-esque, it's almost Taoist. It is about the sort of enlightenment of the individual and the recognition that the work is mostly already done. It's just a matter of educating your fellow man and changing your own mind. Given the fact that state and hierarchies are nothing more than power dynamics that are constantly, power systems that are constantly in a dynamic state of flux, it's about altering and modulating that flux of power systems and, trying to refrain from ossifying them or solidifying them into a static set. And so if you want more post-anarchism, read Saul Newman. And yeah, if you want post-leftism, read some Jason McQuinn. They're two really good theorists on the matter.
And with that note, I'm going to go to sleep, bro. So,
good night, Sue. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, we'll see you guys later. Much love.
Shout out to Lost Sue in chat, and sleep well, Sue. Good night, Tam. Sleep well, and thank you for the compliment. Oh. Let me, you know what? Let me, it's finally starting to just cool down a little in this room, finally. Benefits of not living on the East Coast. Oh. Let's see. There we go. You wrote a paper to Catholic College entitled St. Thomas Aquinas Taught Us Nothing. I was always, St. Francis of Assisi is considered like a proto-anarchist. Now what the Franciscan, order is entirely divorced from St. Francis's teachings or the way he lived his life. McQuinn. Let me get you. Oh, Jesus Christ. This thing restarted. All right. I'll get you a link here. I'll just get you a link to an essay, mister. That'll get you like right off to the races. There you go. Yeah, except they aren't anarchists, Lucy. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, oh yeah, himself. And yeah, Lucy, I mean, you can say, like, the Democratic Republic of North Korea is anything but democratic and republic, right? National Socialists were anything but socialists, right? Like, the Communist Party of China is anything but communist. So, yeah, just because you put it in the title doesn't mean it's actually a thing. And, yeah, St. Francis was based. He was, like, for real. But everything after that's a whole fucking thing. Estrella. I'll debate. I'm not a debate, bro. I hate that energy. If you ever want to have a conversation, if you want to discuss something, if you want to engage in a dialectical exercise and use rhetorical device, I'm your guy. I will have a conversation. But that debate bro shit is toxic as fuck. Wait, hang on. Is this? Okay. Just had to change the resolution on my mouse. Mouse. Blah, blah, blah. Been talking nonstop for a while now. Ugh. %, on the debate lord Socratic method clickbait. Are we right on China? Well, first I have to ask, who is we? That's probably going to be my first question. Who the fuck is we in that question? Francis is a few others were based, but most Christians follow that arsehole Paul more than that is true, Lucy. That is true. Nefarious. Estrella said that in like full ironic mode. Just so you know. I'm familiar enough with Estrella to be able to say that unequivocally. Estrella was having fun. Yeah. In the West. Oh wait, what did Rogue say? Oh. Yeah, okay. In the West, are we right on China? That's a big fucking question, and you know it, right? Like, are there human rights abuses in China? Yeah. Is there imperialistic action in China? Yeah. Are we responsible for a good portion of this? Yeah. Have we done equal or worse things in the West? Yeah. I mean, are we right on China in the West? That's a huge fucking, like, that's a monolith of a question. Nefarious. Fair enough. Straight up. Crusher. That's fair. China is what Lenin would have referred to and did refer to as state-run capitalism. That's Lenin's own turn of phrase. When the revolution was over in Soviet Russia, Lenin called what they achieved in the form of socialism to be state capitalism. And that's what China does. It's a simple three-tier hierarchy. In Tankies, you're adorable. In this country, in America, we have the capital class, we have the political class, we have the working class, for an oversimplification. In China, you have the political class, the capital class, and the working class. That's all. It's just a slight reordering of the hierarchy. That's all. Crusher. Have you ever looked into Texas high school football? If you haven't, have fun. They take that shit very seriously. Worcestershire. WR Sesterrex. Not a forgive me, not a communist government. It's not. It in no way is classless or stateless, which are two core requirements. They have billionaires. Oh yeah, America has slaves. Yeah, himself. Fucking like literally 13th Amendment. Abolished except in cases of criminal conviction or whatever the fucking wording is. Yeah, we do. Wait, what did you? Yeah, we do. We do. Shreks. We do. Like, it's literally constitutionally enshrined that we're... Don't do illegal things then. Beautiful. Yeah, Crusher. No. Socialism. Hey, boss. Stay awesome, Ben Larkin. Have a great weekend. You as well, boss. Always lovely to see you. Don't break laws. Jesus Christ. A lot of penthouses in China. Well, to freak, all economies are technically mixed. What you have is capitalist or communist or socialist or even barter. In economic circles are referred to as what are ideals, right? It's not an actual state of being. It's a thing you aspire to. It's a set of characteristics or qualities. But almost all economies, I mean, unequivocally, are what's referred to as mixed economy styles. It just depends whether one is predominantly capitalist, predominantly socialist, predominantly democratic socialist, or social democrat, you know, those sort of things. And so a social democratic system is going to be predominantly a capitalist system, right? That's just what it is. But it's going to have, you know, blah, 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 blah. No, you don't. You don't, DeFreak. The fact of the matter is I point you to open source technologies, DeFreak. Just open source technologies. The majority of the capitalism and creativity, I actually have a study given to me by one of our economists in Community. He's an economist and financial expert. He works at a very influential bank, and he works as a risk management specialist and is a vice president. And he hooked me up with a study on how capitalism drives down innovation. And it is it's a look into the numerous mechanisms that capitalism actually utilizes to tamp down creativity and innovation. Hey, no worries, Rogue. That's sort of, you know, that's the whole thing. And yeah, as far as the need for the leadership and motivation, open source technologies. the majority of the technologies that run the internet, the stuff that's being run right now, the platform that I'm using is based off of open source technologies. Twitch, AWS is all built off of open source technologies. The Apache server system, the OBS window that I'm utilizing, this is all open source technologies. This is like the definition of fucking communism. This is done by the community for the benefit of the community with nothing, no reward or profit incentive whatsoever when the technology is developed. So open source ecology, yes. I just, I mean, coming from the IT point of view, it's a lot of this stuff as far as decentralized distributed network technologies go, and open source communal technology building and motivation and group project planning, all of this stuff I've seen in action. Most people who have spent enough years in IT have seen these organizational systems at work. I mean, you don't even have to go to a fucking, commune to experience this stuff. Just embed yourself in a lot of IT circles, and you immediately start to encounter these organizational structures. Rogue Ascension. Capitalism breeds creativity. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, Canada has more social programs, but not socialist. And socializing a cost is not the same as socialism. I don't know how many times we have to teach capitalists this lesson. Like, how many times do I have to teach you this lesson, old man? Socializing a cost is not the same as socialism. I don't know why we need to keep hammering that, but apparently we do. Equality is inherently capitalist. Did somebody give me a lot of drugs? Because that's some crazy ass shit. Capitalism is inherently hierarchical, which is the opposite of equality. Whew, that's... Guys should just suck it up and stop feeling pain. What's so hard? I don't feel pain. Why does he? I know, right? Yeah, reading repo licenses is a great taste of it. Right, Googleizer? Art World 2, plenty of people giving their time freely to teach each other skills and share their work. Exactly, 6 foot. Capitalism is the pursuit of inequality. Good night, himself. Just lovely meeting you. Thanks for hanging out. Sleep well. You do know that mobility between the class layers in capitalism is almost stagnant at this point, right, DeFreak? And don't give me this mythologized rich person shit. Zuckerberg was already able to go to Harvard. Bill Gates' mom was on the board of directors of United Way with one of the board of directors for IBM. Warren Buffett got a personal tour by the president of the New York Stock Exchange at the behest of his congressional father. Elon Musk was walking around with fucking emeralds in his pockets from his father's South African apartheid gem mine. Like, don't mythologize the rich. All right, the capital class is a inherently hierarchical group of individuals. Like, there's no way around this. Wealth builds wealth. And you can trace a lot of this to money. I I can't even, like, my brain is sort of like stuck in gear at the thought that somebody thinks capitalism is the definition of equality. I can't get past that. My brain is like refusing to move forward. It just, how do you even justify that idea? Oh, somebody got timed out. Holy shit. Yeah. Oh no, they got banned. Yeah, and for the shit they were saying, wow. Good call, Joe. Good call. Where is... We'll see what that... We'll see how they, Yeah, I deleted it, Lucy. But we'll see how long they survive, quite frankly, with that attitude. The appropriation of Pickle Rick across any medium proves capitalism will never breed creativity. Yeah, it's Dre. He's got a eye for stocks. No, he's fucking wealthy as shit. Honestly. Hello, Isaiah. Yeah, that dude had to go. No, Nordic countries aren't socialist. They're fucking they're sock dems, which would just make them highly regulated capitalism. That's all, with a solid social safety net welfare program. Again, Haas, not a socialist. Anarchist. Right? Like, if you want somebody to go walk you through socialism, go find a fucking, like, there's plenty of people on this network that do that sort of shit. Yeah. They even have a term for it. AES. Actually existing socialism. Go talk to a tanky. DeFreak, how do you not see that that is a personal triumph over that system, in spite of that system? That system attempted to restrain that individual in every way, shape, or form. And in spite of that system, that man managed to rise up through it, right? Like, that's not a triumph of capitalism and our country's system, right? Like, that's just not a thing. Like, he was successful in spite of all this bullshit. Like, it was actively attacking him. That's not a defense of that system. That's a condemnation. Let me see. And we still are to this day. It's a matter of policy. Oh, what have I got here? Somebody sent me something. Okay, cool. Give me 1 sec here. Oh, what? Give me 1 sec. I got a bunch of notifications here. There we go. Yes, the FBI actually did try to get Martin Luther King to kill himself.
Sure, I was hoping you'd say that.
Oh, shit. Fucking, I got, he's open. Sorry, didn't mean to do that in the background. America, fuck yeah. We do. DeFreak. We do. What do you think the prison system is? Let's see. Hang on. Labor, U.S. companies. The FBI tried to get Martin Luther King to kill himself. That is a very well documented. That's not conspiracy theory. That's just very well documented. They tried to get him to kill himself. Yeah. Let's see. Do I have a list? Yeah, I got some lists here. And do we have some of the biggies? Market realist will help that. All right, cool. All right, so, oh, you know what? Hang on, let's do that too. Give me 1 sec here. I want the word verbiage. The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution abolished slavery and involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime whereof the party shall be have been duly convicted shall exist in the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So, if you've committed a crime, you're technically constitutionally still able to be a slave. Now, got that covered. Let's go to, let's see, Wendy's and McDonald's, IBM, Walmart, JCPenney, Fidelity Investments, Verizon, Sprint, American Legislative Exchange Council, all the way down to smaller companies, Impact Design, Hubco Inc., Electrics, Jetco, H&H Trailers, Rain Inc., Kaufman Engineering, Dickinson Frozen Foods, Merit Partners, Allwire Inc. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies in this country that utilize prison labor that is essentially slave labor. They're not volunteers. Like it just, hey Raphael, do you think there will be a swing in the system in our lifetime? Oh, in my lifetime? In mine specifically? Because a lot of you are younger than me. You gotta, yeah, exactly, Viva. Working for 8 cents an hour is slavery. Like, it's slavery. And you've got a very twisted worldview, DeFreak. Crusher's 46. Okay, so our lifetime, Crusher. Our lifetime. Okay. I'm almost 40. So we're in the same crew. The swing would probably come from the global south, Crusher. The swing would probably come from the global south. If it's gonna happen, you look to places like Argentina and Chile and Peru and Uruguay and, I mean, Africa. That's probably where the change would come from. We're a little too, I like this term ossified or calcified or solidified, right? I like ossified. We're a little too ossified in the global north as far as our system structure goes. I'm not sure we're going to have it bad enough to cause that level of swing. Perfloro, anthropogenic climatological changes are enough of a catalyst that you could see change because of that. Yeah. Another global collapse of the finance system could also spurn that on. Like if we had 2008, but ramped up even a little further again, that could definitely trigger some stuff. Crusher, there's always going to be isolated nation states that have high amount of resources and the correct, treaties with other nation states that are going to be isolated and sort of insulated from a lot of this stuff. Yeah, the whole market is in a huge bubble. Oh, I don't know, right? Nefarious. That face when you bootlick the dollar because McCarthy said anyone against capitalism is bad. But aren't we in a 2008 but worse situation? Yeah. Yeah, Viva. It's potential. Oh, he's in the town. All right, cool. Especially with that odd interest rate. There we go. Close that. Yeah, I feel the swamp will be full till I die. So just trying to work my way through what I'm presented with. That's fair, Crusher. Straight up. Am I talking to a bot? Have I been tricked? All right. It's 3 a.m. and I have been going pretty much nonstop for, that's good enough. 3.5. That's pretty solid. All right. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Jesus Christ. Your manager was also a Milton Friedman freak. Oh, lovely. All right, let me do that. Checked Nader. 11 a.m. in Ireland. Yeah, no, I have a thing to do tomorrow anyway. Oppression was the best event to make a dent poverty. Talking about Social Security, a zero safety net before. I know, right? All right. Let's go say hi to public. Been going around in circles. Yeah, it's fine. For those of you that came over with Kaze's raid, thank you for hanging out. No worries, mister. Hey, Perfloro, thanks. Nice seeing you. Yeah, I hope to see you again, Perfloro. It was fun having a conversation with you. You're welcome, Rogue. We're going to raid over to Public Loser. He's playing Ni no Kuni 2 right now. Not a political streamer, but a good guy. And so, yeah. For those of you who don't know, kaisthings.com, K-A-I-S things.com. It's my website where you can catch all of the VODs and essays and photography and whatever else I do. Hey, thank you, Six. Thank you back. I'm on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Tuesday, Thursdays, 11:30 p.m. Pacific. You have just caught my Thursday show. So I hope you're as well as you can be. Until next time, guys. Let's go say hi to public.